Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everyone. How's it going? How's everybody doing this morning? Let me say hi to you. Let's see. Hey, Nadine Boo. Oh, Nadine. Let me call you Nadine Boo. Salty C, Jane Doe, Pointer Lover, Ruby Joy, Vanessa. Good to see everybody, Jan. Let's see. Did I say Pointer Lover? Hey, Pointer Lover, if I didn't say hi already, hi again. Or hi for the first time, Mama Stone. Struggle is real. Christy, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, and now let's have a word from our sponsor.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
All right, but make sure that you are doing it.
No malicious.
Because that's important. We don't want to be maliciously smashing the like button. Good morning, Lupe. Okay, so day 6 of one Letecia stauch. Hold on a second. I got to write something down before I forget. All right. Anyway, hey, Christy, good to see everybody. Good to see everyone here. Let me get over to the YouTubes. Well, we got a minute before they actually start. So when we last left, hey, Corky, old Letecia Samara Stauch. The last witness was Spencer, and I can't remember his last name. Is it Wilson or White? I know it starts with a W. Hey, butterfly kisses. Why can't I remember his last name? Probably because when they announced his name, I immediately thought of Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds. And then now that's like all I can think of. So that's going to be problematic. Wilson, thank you. Okay, now I need to, thank you, Jamie. I need to associate it with the volleyball from Castaway. See if I can do associations to movies or music or something. I remember so much better. All right, so yes, the last witness on the stand yesterday was Spencer Wilson, and I thought his testimony was really important because how he even got the interview with Letecia is interesting. He was in the neighborhood. He was, doing his thing, and this car drives past him or towards, up to him, I guess is a better way to explain it anyway. And rolls down the window and, is sort of berating him and saying, you got things wrong, blah, 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 and hey, sunset gazing, and he recognizes, oh, it's one Letecia stauch. So he gets the interview with her, right? And what I found to be interesting was the things that we all noticed in that interview are also things that he noticed and remarked on in that interview, like the fact that she is, and this part to me is very, very interesting, okay? Because this is during her sort of plea to Gannon, which, by the way, had to be done twice. Okay. So the first time, no emotion, the second time, crying. Right. But her tears weren't even for Gannon. They were for herself. So because she's owed a big apology. Spoiler alert. Hey, Carol Claus. Spoiler alert. No, you're not owed a big apology. And we are all seeing how this is ending. And guess what? You're on trial, ma'am. So whatever, Letecia. Anywho, so then she's during that like plea for Gannon, right? She starts describing Gannon, okay? And what's interesting about that is that midway through the story, not even the story, what's the right word? I mean, midway through the description, she starts referring to Gannon's attributes in the past tense. That's very interesting to me. You can tell a lot about a person by the way that they speak, the words that they use, that kind of thing. Sometimes what is said is important, but also what is not said is also very, very important. And hey, Tony. Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting. What else? I thought that the fact that he remarked about the whole having to do it twice, and the way that she was able to um, cry and then turn it off was interesting. And the fact is, we don't know whether there were tears or not, because obviously Letecia chose to do the interview with her back turned to the camera. And I don't even know if he could see the tears truly, because she was wearing sunglasses through the whole thing. Then she, hauls Harley over, and you can tell that Harley is reluctant. Whatever that exchange was that occurs off camera, Letecia is mic'd clearly, right? So obviously her voice is going to be louder than Harley's. But I also think that Harley is some distance from her, like not like, miles or anything like that, but she's um a little bit further away from her, and you can sort of tell that she's walking towards her, because obviously as she gets closer her voice gets louder, but there is some type of an exchange. And judging from Leticia's side of the conversation, which is far more audible, right? I feel like Harley is hesitant. She doesn't want to do it. And hey, Tia, happy. Okay, I know that I saw um the post, and please forgive me, Tia. It's your birthday, right? Not LFT's, or do I have it backwards? I'm terrible, and I'm so sorry. I can't believe that I missed that, and now I'm messing it up. I feel like I'm so sorry. Either way, even if whether it was your birthday and I'm late, happy belated birthday. If it was LFT's birthday and I'm late, happy belated birthday to LFT, and I'm sorry. I'm horrible. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Hey, AJ. So, yeah, her mom, yeah, of course she does, Nadine. She knows it's going to take me a long time to get used to that name, but yeah, yeah, she knows her mom is full of crap. But there was some, speaking of Harley, so then there was this interesting situation yesterday with morning Shmeda. Happy birthday, Tia. Happy late birthday. Okay, I'm just gonna call you Nay, because I'm gonna get it wrong. I know I am. Um, but there's this interesting uh conversation with the detective who is going to serve the warrants for the search warrants for Harley's phone and her vehicle, right? And he's asked if Harley was a person of interest, and he says yes. And a lot of people, me, hi, I'm a lot of people, and I know other people too, have wondered, what exactly did Harley know? When did she know it? You know what I mean? We've all wondered that. And I'm curious about that myself. I don't think that we should read too much into her being called a person of interest. And here's why. Because at the end of the day, she wasn't charged. So whatever level of knowledge or involvement potentially the state of Colorado felt like it wasn't, it, I don't want to say they didn't think it was criminal, because that's they obviously didn't feel that they could prosecute her for it. There's okay, let me start again. There's only two things that could have happened in that scenario. Okay. One, either there is no criminal involvement on Harley's part, or two, there was some criminal involvement, but the state of Colorado didn't feel like they could secure a conviction. That's why they chose not to prosecute her. Those are the only two things that could happen. And I think that we'll have a much, much better idea of what that exactly was when and if Harley takes the stand. And I also don't think that we should read too much into the fact that she is listed as a witness for the state. And here's why: because she was subpoenaed. And that means she has to testify. It isn't something she volunteered to do. I mean, frankly, everybody is subpoenaed that's testified, right? That's how it works. It's not like she volunteered. It's very different than, say, when I covered the Wagner trial, right? And Angela and Jake Wagner testified. That was part of Jake's plea deal, and he was absolutely testifying against his brother for the state. Period. I don't know that that's what this is at this point. I don't feel like confident labeling Harley one way or the other, because the truth of the matter is Harley's level of knowledge, involvement, etc., is really shrouded in shadow, for lack of better words. Really, we don't actually know. There's been a little bit of thing. There's been some things that have come out, and but again, we don't know for sure. And so I also think it's important to keep in mind that at the end of the day, Harley was 17, okay? And yeah, 17 is almost an adult. And in the state of Texas, you can leave your home and your parents can't like file charges of you for running away. Well, what they can report you as a runaway, but you won't get charged. You have the option at 17 under certain circumstances to leave home, okay? It is what it is, but you're still not an adult, either, mentally for sure, and legally either. And although certain crimes obviously can be charged as an adult, I don't even know where I'm going with this. The bottom line for me is that it's not just her age, but look who raised her, quite frankly. She lost her dad at a relatively early age, right? And Letecia has been raising her whole life. And we see what she did to Gannon in just 6 years. Do you know what I mean? And we don't really know a whole lot about um, we don't really know a whole lot about what that home life was like, except for Gannon. You know what I mean? And we don't really even know, even with respect to Gannon, was this and I hate to say it like this, but I don't really know another way to say it. Is this a situation where um, one day something just snapped in her and crossed the line between potentially emotional abuse, mental abuse into physical, and that ended up resulting in his death? I don't know, because I haven't really heard anything from anybody else in the home. Even Al, when he's talking about it, he was talking more about the manipulative nature of Letecia with respect to him. Not and the one thing he did say was that he had to remind Letecia frequently that A, she was better than Landon, and B, that things are replaceable, children are not. So that's a a little bit of a glimpse, but I'm curious about it. And I have to look that up for you, Lupe. I can't remember right off the top of my head. And yes, um, Waggett family, that's another thing. Ahead of her being called to the stand, the defense is already starting to plant seeds of doubt and impeachment, if you will, ahead of her testimony. Meaning, like, there was a question that they asked the female detective, and she said, yeah, like, um, Harley was alone in the house and had unfettered access twice. Um, and that's true. I do too, Pointer Lover. I want to know. I want to know how she treated Gannon's sister. That's what I want to know. I would like to know the family dynamics. I have a feeling that it's going to come up. And I would imagine that the family dynamics will likely come out with Harley's testimony. However, I'm very, very curious how far back in years they will go as far as Harley goes. Because, they have that 404, which is the propensity. And so, and like past bad acts. And because I've never heard of it, of Letecia being involved with CPS at any point, whether it was, prior to marrying Al or after. I don't know. So I'm really looking forward, and I'm very curious what Harley's testimony will consist of and what all they're going to ask her and how far back and deep they're going to go, frankly. That's what I want to know. These are things that I'm also very interested in the jury asking questions. I think it's actually a really good idea. I like it. And I think that they've been asking like questions that I think we would want to know. And then when they're done with their questions, the judge lets the state and the defense um, ask more questions on a limited basis, obviously based on, you know, what the jury asked and what the witness answered. And so I thought that was very, very interesting. And they are asking good questions. One question that hasn't been asked by either the defense or, well, obviously, I don't think the defense is going to ask this, but by the jury or by the state, hey, Allie, good to see you, babe, is about, and Allie and I were talking about this last night. And if you missed Allie's and my live last night on Alex's channel, you missed a good one. I always have such a good time talking to Allie and engaging with the chat and stuff. We talked about a lot of things because one of the things that I was really stumped about was this candle, especially given the fact that the order of injuries, I think we all kind of thought it was blunt force trauma to the head and then stab and GSW. But according to the medical examiner, it was the sharp force trauma, then this is how I think it happened. I think it was the sharp force trauma, then the blunt force trauma, and then the GSW. But the medical examiner, when she testified, said that she couldn't say which came first, the GSW or the blunt force trauma to the head. So we don't know. But it was a great, great live. And Allie and I are going to start alternating beginning tonight on our channels, doing the recap of both Gannon's, what occurred in the courtroom in Letecia's trial, and then the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. And so I think for tonight, we're going to do obviously Letecia, but I think for Lori Vallow, I think Allie and I are going to go over opening statements and the testimony yesterday. So we are really, really, your girls are working hard. I'm trying to come up with a fantastic thumbnail to, show what we want, what we're going to talk about. One that I don't get tired of and I can use, from week to, from night to night, but we're going to be alternating. And then on Thursdays, Allie and I plan to really go in on the Vallow trial because, as you know, Thursday is a a day off for the court in the Stauch trial. So we'll have all that for you. You know, Jamie, that's a good question. I kind of am thinking that it's possible only because of Allie, you want to come up? No pressure, babe. You don't have to if you're busy. I know you have stuff that you get to do during the morning, but if you want to, I'll drop the link for you. I feel like even though the detective that approached Allie, not Allie, the detective that approached Letecia and Harley at Marshall's was there to to execute a search warrant on Harley's phone and vehicle, right? Leticia's shenanigans and behavior were so crazy and just ridiculous and unnecessary, quite frankly. Hey, I've learned a lot. Good to see you. Hey, Diane. Hey, Punksy. Good morning. I kind of think that maybe that because that was that was what he was up there to testify to was this search warrant. But then here comes Letecia. You know what I would love to get my hands on, and surely it's out there. It's got to be part of the case file, y'all. Because this is why I think this is why. So remember that in that interview that she gave with Spencer Wilson, see, I remembered. Letecia is talking about this incident in the Marshall's parking lot, right? And the officers did not wear, the detective didn't have, at that time, they weren't wearing body cam, right? So, but now they are. So now I'm sort of, oh, thank you so much, Elisa. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. No, I have not. I have not seen that, Jamie. Oh my gosh. No, I'll have to go look. So I'm curious, in order to sort of prove that that's not how it went down, I'm curious if the security footage, the security cameras in that parking lot, if there were any A, and B, if they got that footage, and see where is it and how can we get our hands on it, because they said she took off in a full sprint, like, bruh, slow down, and then chunked her keys. And then as they're getting escorting Harley out, right, she's saying, don't tell him anything. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Shrek. And when Lord Farquaad is questioning the gingerbread man, and they bring in the magic mirror, and Lord Farquaad goes, bring in the mirror, right? And the gingerbread man like tries to sit up a little bit, and he's all, don't tell him anything. That's what it reminded me of. Yeah, like, what are you doing, Letecia? So bizarre. Who acts like that? Oh, yeah, that would be perfect, Jamie. Hold on. It's let me type in the chat. There we go. Oh, you're running to Food Lion? Oh man, I haven't been in a Food Lion in forever. I remember when Food Lion came to Texas, and yeah, it was like a big deal. And yeah, listen, babe, go get your groceries, do what you got to do, whatever, whatever, whatever. But yeah, this is what she does. And So I thought, golly, I mean, why are you always like, Letecia, serious? Why do you have to? I mean, why do you choose to forever act a fool? I mean, that the chunking of the car keys, the um, screaming on the telephone call with what's his name, with Al talking about immunity, like, was that really necessary? Honestly, it's just always being so extra. Oh, Pointer Lover, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's very sweet, you guys. Thank you. Um, let's see. Hi, True Crime Crazy. Thank you so much, Pointer Lover. So sweet. Yeah, Alex and I are going to have a lot to go over tonight. We're going to be busy bees, and so, and we only have like 2 hours to do it. We have to keep it real tight. So no, this is really not for me. This is not for y'all. This is clearly, it's not for Allie either. It's for me. But I feel like putting it live, and then obviously YouTube is going to upload it. It will be there in perpetuity. It's like an oral agreement, a verbal contract that I cannot get off task. I cannot get into any side rabbit holes, side projects, none projects. I can't even talk. None of that. I have to be on task and focused, because otherwise because she's going to do, and I'm really excited to see this too, over on Truth Teller's channel. Allie and Truth Teller are going to talk about Bigfoot. And you guys know, I love those kinds of conversations, because I'm just of the opinion that there's so much more out there than we even know. And, every once in a while we get like a glimpse. Oh, yeah, Nate, it's going to be a struggle. I'm already struggling. I can't even talk about it correctly without the struggling. Like, it's a real thing. It's a mess. I'm a mess. I'm going to try my. Here we go. Oh, crap. I'm gonna get big.
that Yeah. Right there, if you some, or you can pour it into that cup there. So every
Oh, wait. Crap. It came in real abrupt, you
I'm
guys.
sorry. It's okay. It happens. It's an emotional case. I get that. But you just have to do the best that you can to get through the testimony, okay?
And with the court's permission, can I just ask some follow-up questions? Mr. Lowry, I know this is very difficult for you, okay? But I really want you to focus on me, and I know your wife's here as well. And I'm just going to ask you some questions. We'll get through this, okay? But it's important that you got to kind of keep your cool.
Okay.
All right? Can you do that?
I'm trying my best. I can't make no promises, but I try my best.
And I appreciate that. I know it's difficult for you here through this, okay? And if you need a break, just let us know. If you feel something coming up, have an outburst, do the best you can and let us know, and break, okay? Is that fair?
Okay.
I mean, court was scheduled to start at 9 their time, which is 11 o'clock our East Coast. It's 11:03, and I'm sitting here talking to you. I have the screen ready to present, and there wasn't anything. It was waiting, right? And then all of a sudden, this audio comes in. So we're just going to do the best we can, and I'll try to figure out what happened. Okay. Who Mr. Lowry is. Okay. Here we go.
All right. All right. Let's go ahead and bring the
I'm going to find this out, you guys. Give me just a second. Who this is.
Do we have the other camera? All rise for the jury, please.
All right, hang on, you guys.
All right, thank you. You may all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lowry, this is your first time being in the courtroom ever, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you're probably extremely nervous.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna get through this, okay? I'm just gonna ask you some questions and we're gonna have a conversation. Is that all right with you?
Yes, sir.
Did you let the jury know about your other family members, other brothers and sisters?
Okay. This is on the stand now is Dakota Lowry. This is Letecia's brother. Okay.
Your parents, that kind of thing?
I got another sister. Her name's Julie. My mom, Deborah. I mean, that's pretty much.
And then
I
it
got my nieces, all my nieces.
what's your niece's name? Do you remember?
I got Harley, Jazz, Kanae, Cash, Maya, Jada.
And is Deborah your mother?
That's my mom. Yeah.
And for the most part, did your family grow up in North Carolina, where you're from, Lumberton, and
Yes, sir.
some still living out there?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that Letecia Stauch is your sister,
Yes, sir.
and you see her in the courtroom today.
Yes, sir.
Could you point her out and describe what she's wearing?
A green splitter.
And when was the last time you saw her?
When we came down here in 2020.
So January 2020?
Yes, sir.
And so I want to talk about that a little bit. When you said came out here, who came out here?
Me, my mom, and my Aunt Brenda.
And what's Brenda's last name?
Ackward.
What's your mom's last name?
Locklear.
Why you come out here?
We come out here to help support because we felt like she was being wrongly accused for something that we believe she would never do.
I'm sorry, go
We-
ahead.
We also want to come out here and help look for them. We did.
Go ahead and take a deep breath, all right? When you're ready.
I'm ready.
So you want her to come out and help. You refer to her as Tisha,
Mhm.
and you also wanted to look for Gannon.
Yes, sir.
So do you remember when you came out?
January 31st, I think. 30th. It was like January. It was about to be February because my mom's birthday was that weekend or something, that next week.
And why particularly did you come out?
Because I knew my mom was going to come out here.
Did you want to support your mom?
Yes, sir.
Now, was it January 30th of 2020 when you all flew out here?
I believe so.
Where did you fly to? Do you remember?
Denver.
You got to Denver, what did you do?
Went looking for her and Harley.
Rent a car?
Yeah, we rented the car from the airport.
Did your aunt Brenda Awkward rent the car?
Yes, sir.
And did she pay for y'all to come out here?
Yes, sir.
And
Mr. Lowry, you're kind of soft-spoken at times. Could you put the microphone a little bit closer to you so the jurors can hear you a little better? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
so when you get to Denver, your aunt rents a car. What was the game plan? What were you gonna do?
Get Tisha and at least two around us.
And did they know you all were coming out?
Yeah.
And so, do you recall renting a Nissan Altima?
I think so.
You drive down to Colorado Springs, I assume?
Yeah.
Who was driving? Do you remember? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Aunt Brenda.
And so what happens when you get to Colorado Springs? Where do you go?
Like a shopping center. Cause that's where we found them at.
Were you guys talking to him on your way down?
Yeah, when we was looking for them.
And so would this be a shopping center kind of on the north side of town next to a Marshall's department store?
Yeah, there was a Marshalls there.
And did they tell you why they were, or let me ask you this, did the defendant, Tisha, tell you why they were at the mall?
She didn't tell us why. Not that I can remember.
Did she tell you whether or not she had an interaction with some
Yes.
police officers?
Yes, sir.
Hey, nonstop.
And you have to kind of wait till I finish asking
Yeah, you drop
questions.
on. Got to do it. Here's the
Okay.
deal.
So what did she tell you happened prior to you getting there?
That the laws had thrown her down and detained her.
Say anything about Harley?
Yes, or they said also Harley.
That upset you?
Yes, it did.
So where did you go after you went to this Marshall's parking lot area to pick them up?
We ain't got a hotel.
And do you remember the name of the hotel?
No.
Does the extended suites sound familiar?
Yeah, standing suites.
So what happened when you got to the extended suites?
That was when they was discussing wanting to get their stuff back, like get their belongings.
And who was discussing that?
Tisha.
Once you picked up the defendant and her daughter Harley, who was kind of calling the shots as to what you were going to do and where you're going to go and things like that?
I don't really know.
Well, was
I'm type like I said, I'm the type of person that likes just stand in the corner and wait until they just tell me what they want to do.
Well, who told you what to do?
you're just there to help?
I'm just there.
So how many rooms did you end up getting at the extended suites?
I can't remember.
Did you spend the night there that night?
Yeah.
Do you remember who was in your room?
This is her brother. Yes, Dakota
I know my
Lowry.
mom was.
Sorry, I'll make a. Hold on a second. I'm looking for.
I believe
something
Aunt
for
Brenda
you
was
guys.
with
Please
us.
give me a second, please.
I can't remember if we had just one room or two rooms.
Okay. Well, was Harley and your sister, the defendant, in the room with you?
We was around each other most of the time. Like all of us was together most of the time.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that the defendant was talking about wanting to get her stuff back. What did you do the next morning to do that?
We rented a van.
And who rented the van?
Aunt Brenda.
So Brenda Awkward rents, what kind of van did she rent?
Like a cargo van, I guess you would say.
And so did all of you go to rent the van?
I don't know if all of us went or not. I believe we did.
So it's you, your mother, Deborah, Brenda Awkward, Harley, and the defendant, Tisha. Where do you go?
I know at one point she tried to go to the police station and get her pocketbook and stuff like that.
Tell the jury about that. Where
He's for the state.
exactly did she go? And
Oh, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that.
You
I
probably
got
don't
it,
know
babe.
Colorado Springs very well.
Mm.
So did she tell you she's going to the police department, and did you actually go to the police
Yeah,
department?
we went to the police department.
And did she go in to try to get her belongings back that was taken?
Yeah,
in
she
evidence?
did.
You know whether or not she got those items?
I can't remember.
So where do you go from the police department?
I think that's when we went to their house to get their clothes and stuff.
So this would have been January 31st now, 2020,
I believe so.
the next morning.
That Friday.
So what happens when you get to her house?
We just started loading up the clothes and stuff that's coming out of the house.
Were there police officers there?
Yes, sir.
What were the police officers doing?
They was checking everything we brought out,
How were they checking it?
like looking in the bags and I guess just making sure there wasn't nothing that wasn't supposed to be there.
And how did you feel about being at the residence that morning?
Just aggravated.
And why were you aggravated?
Because I felt like we was getting looked at as criminals.
Is that because they were looking at your sister as a criminal?
No, they was looking at our whole family. It wasn't just her.
And so what kind of things did you guys get out of the house? Do you remember?
Suitcases and clothes, that's all I can remember.
Was it all the Harley's clothes and all of your sister's clothes?
Yes, sir.
What was the game plan? I mean, where were you going to make those clothes?
They got their dogs too.
What was the plan on where you were going to go with all the clothes and things? You know?
But I know when she got it, she was ready to leave. She was ready to leave.
And did she tell you where she was ready to leave to?
I thought it was South Carolina.
And is that where she moved out to Colorado from, is South Carolina?
I don't think that's where she moved out of Colorado from.
Well, did she live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a while?
Yes, sir.
Is that where she was planning on going back to?
That's what I thought.
Is that what she told you?
That's what I can remember.
So how long did it take to load up all her and Harley's things into this cargo van?
I can't remember. Over an hour, I guess.
So what happens after you get the van loaded?
We leave and go back to the room, I believe.
Do you remember whether or not your sister had an interview with a news reporter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she did.
Tell the jury about that. How'd that come about?
I don't know how that happened. I just know she just had an interview with him.
And what, did she tell you why? I mean, was anybody talking to her about doing this? Or?
I wasn't. I wasn't.
Whose idea was it to have a interview with a news reporter?
I don't know.
Foundation.
Sustained. Jury will disregard the answer.
So when you went to the house, I'm assuming you went in the cargo van. Did you also take the Nissan Altima that was,
Yeah, the Nissan was with us.
who was driving which vehicle?
I think I was driving the van, and I think Brenda was on the Nissan.
And what vehicle was your sister the defendant?
Say that again.
What vehicle was your sister in, the defendant? Do you remember?
No. I don't remember.
You know, we'll go on to that. So she does an interview with a news reporter. What do you do after that?
I just know we left. I don't remember where we went.
Did you eventually go back to the
We went
hotel?
back, yeah.
Do you remember about what time of day it was?
No.
Go back to the hotel room, and what do you do when you get back to the hotel room?
I know we
Yeah,
mentioned
Corey.
something about wanting to go look for him. Because me and my mama, we wanted to go help look for him.
Tell us about that conversation.
Well, we wanted to go. She said she would get up with Albert, find out like when they're going to go out and look for him again or whatever. But we wanted to go, but at the same time, we kind of didn't because we didn't feel like we was getting treated right down here.
Is that because of what happened at the house earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, this is important. Let me put this up here.
When you first got to Colorado,
Thank
did you
you,
have
Sunset
conversations with
Gaming.
your sister about,
I
hey, we got to go out and look for
appreciate
Gannon and we got to go search for him?
We asked if they had any idea where he was at and stuff. I mean, that's about all we asked her.
And did you all ever go search for Gannon?
No, we didn't.
Did she ever say, hey, we got to go look for Gannon?
I mean, she told us that we could. That's all she told us. Like she said, we'd get up with Al and talk to him about it.
She never did. When you get back to the hotel room back on January 31st of 2020, did the defendant leave you all and go somewhere by herself?
Yes.
Overruled.
Did she tell you where she was going?
Go get some dog food for their dogs.
Do you know what vehicle she took?
The Nissan.
The Ultima?
Yes, sir.
And how long was she gone?
Hey, Mel, whatever.
A
Let
while.
me hide this.
Hour?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just know she was gone longer than what I expected.
Was it 2 hours?
I don't know.
You remember sitting around the hotel room wondering where she's at and when she's getting back, that kind of thing?
Well, I did get on the phone with my wife, and I did tell my wife I feel like she's just been gone too long. But
Say that.
because she was gone for a long time, like I can't remember how long she was gone, but I didn't expect her to take that long. But then a part of me was like, well, maybe she's just trying to take her a minute by herself. So
Did anyone try to call her and say, hey, where are you? What's going on here?
no, not that I can remember.
Does she eventually come back?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What happens when she gets back?
I don't know. She came back and she was normal to me.
Did she have any dog food or any items for the dogs?
She had some. She came back with some stuff, like she bought something, but I can't remember.
So earlier you had mentioned that she wanted to go back to South Carolina. What was the plan with the cargo van? Was she going to take the cargo van that Brenda Awkward rented to go back to South Carolina?
I don't know if she was going to take that one because Aunt Brenda wouldn't. I doubt Aunt Brenda was going to let her. I believe Aunt Brenda told her she had to get another van.
And so the next morning, we're now on February 1st, 2020. Did you help her get a new van?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that. What did you and your sister do to get a new van?
We went and drove to the budget place. We got another van. And we got the van. We unloaded all the stuff from out of the van into another van, into the other van.
So was that in the early morning hours?
I believe so.
Do you know about what time it was? Is that the first thing you did on February 1st?
I can't remember.
So when you get to the budget area, did you know that you were going to transfer things from one van to another when you got there?
Yeah.
So did you talk about that on the way to the budget rental van?
Yeah.
Something tells me this guy is
So
not
talk
like
to
a
the jury about that. How did you guys go
big
about
on
doing that?
conversations. Hey, Tattoos. Hey,
Moving the items
Fina.
from one van to another.
We just moved, went around like to the side of the budget place, and we just backed the vans up and just swapped them out.
During that process, did you see the defendant with a rather large suitcase?
Yes, sir. I seen her with a lot of suitcases. Well, there was a lot of suitcases on there.
Was there one that kind of stood out to you?
Oh, bless it.
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury that. Why did it stand out to you?
Because it looked like she was struggling with it.
Did you offer to help her?
Yep.
What'd she say?
She didn't need help.
Did you ask her what's in the suitcase?
Yep.
What'd she say?
She told me it was softball stuff.
Why'd you ask her what's in the suitcase?
I didn't feel right about it.
What about that suitcase didn't make you feel right?
I just felt like it was too heavy for her.
At this time, I'd like to publish People's Exhibit 48. It's already been admitted into evidence.
Oh, he's going to publish the suitcase, y'all.
You recognize that suitcase we see on the TV screen?
Yep.
How do you recognize that suitcase?
Look, it's an old suitcase. And I remember that suitcase looked old, and it's green.
Is that the suitcase you saw your sister putting into the budget van?
Yep.
Is that the suitcase you asked her about what's in it?
Yep.
Is that the suitcase you didn't feel right about?
Yep.
Is that the suitcase she told you is softball equipment?
Yep.
Thank you. Take that down. So what happens after you get everything loaded into the budget van from your aunt's rental van?
At that point, we was ready to go home.
And did you drive Brenda Awkward's van back? And did Miss Stauch, your sister, drive the budget van?
I can't remember if we turned that van in there at that place or if we had to turn it in somewhere else. But I mean, I had to drive one of them because it was just me and her.
So do you eventually turn back?
They should, Tattoos.
It's an
They
enterprise
should.
van, right? Is that where you rented the van that Brenda Awkward
I
rented?
think, yeah.
Did you take that van back?
Yeah, we took it back. I think we took it back later on that day.
And did you take the Nissan Altima back to Denver to catch your flight?
Yep.
What did the defendant tell you where she was going to go?
I don't think I can remember. I don't remember. The only thing I can remember is her saying something about going back to Myrtle Beach.
And did she leave with Harley?
Yeah, her and Harley lived.
Did they leave from the hotel?
I can't remember where we split up at. I can't remember where we.
Or did your sister have to go back to the hotel to pick up Harley?
Yep. I think so.
And is that the last time you saw your sister until today?
Yep.
How much older is your sister than you?
14 years.
You known her your whole life?
Yeah.
Can you give the jury an idea about the family background? How often would you see her as you were growing up, that kind of
She
thing?
come to like holidays, came around on holidays.
Where would you guys meet? In North Carolina?
But she'd either come down here or go down there, or we might have went to the beach and seen her.
Had you gone to Myrtle Beach on a few occasions to
Yeah.
hang out with Harley?
Yeah, me and her. I used to go down there and stay with them. We'd go to the water park, stuff like that on the weekends.
Can you let the jury know who your father is?
James Lowry.
And would that have been your sister's stepfather?
Yes, sir.
Is your dad still alive?
No, sir.
Excuse
know
me,
when he died?
sorry. His heart is broken. This is so sad.
70,
Excuse me.
2004.
Do you know the circumstances on how he died?
Got hit by a car.
Was he walking out in the street? And
I don't know if he was, I don't think he was on the street. I think he was on the side of the road.
do you know anything about the relationship between your father and your sister, Letecia Stauch?
No, sir.
Had your sister ever told you anything unusual between their relationship between your father and her?
No, sir.
If there had been something unusual, do you think you would have heard about it?
Objection, foundation.
Overruled.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Because, I mean, pretty sure my mom would have said something.
And your mother, Deborah, was she, well, what kind of mom was she?
She was a great mom to me.
What do you say to me?
I'm just saying that I had no problem with my mama.
Was she very
I
protective?
think none of us should have a problem with my mama.
Was she very protective of the kids,
Yes, sir.
including Miss Stauch?
Yes, sir.
On these occasions that you spent with your sister, did you have an opportunity to see her interact with other people and make decisions and go through everyday life?
Yeah.
Had you ever known her to have a serious mental illness?
I know of, I mean, the only thing we always say she probably had was that she was OCD. That was it.
Is that obsessive compulsive disorder?
Well, we used it as a cleaning disorder. Like she had to keep stuff clean.
Go ahead and object to the reference of. Testify as to what he saw and observed, but I'm rejecting him testifying.
That's fair. Mr. Lowry, just talk about what you think as opposed to what all of you thought. So if you think it, it's fine. And just say, this is what I thought based on your contacts with her. Okay. Mr. Young?
You understand that? I mean, you good with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that she had OCD. Why do you say that?
She liked to keep stuff in a particular spot. She liked to keep everything clean.
But when you're around her, would you make sure that things remain clean? Because she may want to,
Yep.
might say something to you.
Yep.
Was she the same with Harley?
She was the same with everybody like that. As far as I know.
Anything unusual about that?
No. That's normal to me.
You know other people like that?
No.
Had you ever known her to use different names or identify herself by a different name?
I can't remember.
Do you ever remember her referring to herself as a person named Harmony?
Hey, Regina.
I do know she didn't like her name, but I don't remember her calling herself Harmony.
Did she tell you why she didn't like her name?
No.
Do you ever remember her calling herself Jasmine?
No.
And you said you had a niece named Jasmine or Jazz?
Jaslyn.
Sorry.
Jaslyn.
And are you familiar whether or not your sister liked Disney movies?
Who
I
doesn't?
believe she did.
And are you familiar with the movie Aladdin?
Yeah.
You familiar with a character named Jasmine in that movie?
Yes, sir.
Who's Jasmine in that movie?
The princess.
Do you ever remember her talking in a Spanish accent?
No,
You ever seen her in a stressful situation?
no,
How about when you came to Colorado?
yeah.
During the entire time you're in Colorado with her, had you ever seen her speak in a Spanish accent?
No,
Have you ever heard her refer to herself as Maria?
no,
Does Maria mean anything to you? That name?
no.
You have an opinion as to whether or not your sister has the capacity to know right from wrong.
Thought she did.
Why do you say that?
She's too smart.
Was your sister a really good athlete as well?
Yes, sir.
What kind of sports did she play?
Softball, basketball, baseball.
Was she more of a leader than a follower?
That's what I thought.
Never see her drive a vehicle, for instance.
Yes,
You
sir.
don't like Disney movies, Corky?
She had the ability to stop at red lights, go when it turns green. That
Oh,
kind of
bless
thing.
it.
Yes, sir.
Was she
You ever
able to
seen her-
function?
And have you witnessed her obey the law?
Yes, sir.
And is that throughout your entire life?
Yeah.
And is that for even when you were in Colorado?
I mean, we didn't ride with her. She didn't really drive around with us, but I mean, she acted funny the whole time we was down here, to be honest.
Tell us about that. Why was she acting funny?
She was-
Ooh, I need to see what that acting funny means. Please
Seemed like she was
elaborate.
stressed out about everything that was going on, looking over her shoulders. But I figured that was because of the laws was constantly coming after her.
You alluded to this earlier, but she had just been in handcuffs prior to you guys picking her up, right?
Yep.
And do you think that may have caused her to be a little bit paranoid about police following her and things
Yep.
like that? What about her capacity to do things intentionally, perform intentional acts? Let's talk about the budget rental van. Did you see anything unusual about her ability to rent another van to go to South Carolina?
No.
Does she have the capacity?
I'm taking notes for
intend
both
to
of
do
us,
things.
Allie. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Does she have the capacity to make decisions and
Got
use
you, boo.
judgment and reflection in making those decisions?
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard that she pled not guilty by reason of insanity?
I believe that was the only way she did it at that time.
Did what?
What we're here for.
A moment, Your Honor.
You may.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Polina?
Mr. Lowry,
Morning.
I know this is difficult. And we've met before, correct?
Yep.
Remember I came when I saw you and your mom and everything out in North Carolina. I want to go back just to this attorney's last question. You indicated she must have been when she did this. And what you're meaning is the Letecia that you know, the only way she could have done something so horrible if she has some type of mental break.
When everything first happened, and we found out that the little boy was found in the body, we found out where he was found. At that point, I knew she did it because when I seen that suitcase and asked her about it, she just acted funny to me. And yeah, I thought she might have snapped and went crazy.
Okay.
But Now, no. No.
Okay. And talk Lumberton, you're from Lumberton, North Carolina, correct?
Yep.
And that's kind of a small, how big of Lumberton?
It's not that big.
A pretty small community.
Yeah.
And this case has got a national exposure.
Yep.
And it's got even more kind of exposure, you know, in Lumberton. Lumberton
Yep.
press is, you know, picked up and followed this case pretty closely.
Yep.
And over the 3 years since this has happened, this has caused a lot of shame to come upon you and your family.
Yep.
It makes you feel like your own town, kind of like an outcast,
Yep.
like everybody's looking and judging you,
Yep.
like everybody's looking and judging your mom.
Yep.
And this is all your stepsister's fault.
No, she's not my stepsister.
You have different fathers, correct?
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
consider
that's a
that a
half-sister.
stepsister. That's half.
Thank you.
Okay.
Get it,
This is all your half sister's fault.
Dakota.
Yes.
And you're angry at her for it.
Yep.
When you were out in Colorado during this time, she was acting different than normal.
Yes, she was.
She was pacing up and down. She seemed highly paranoid.
Yep.
Your mother was concerned for her mental health.
Yep.
Did your mom, Brenda, and you all fly back together?
Yeah, me, my mom, and Aunt Brenda.
Okay. You flew out of DIA?
Yeah.
Do you call her during that time in Colorado that you were with her being paranoid and believing there's a black BMW that was following her?
Yeah, she did do that.
Go back. You're actually named after your father? Middle name?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And my grandpa.
Okay. And Ms. Stauch was 16 when she moved out, correct?
I believe.
Okay. So she's 14 years older than you. That would mean you're only 2 years old when she moved out of the house.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So you never had any active memories of her with James or how James treated her.
No, sir.
And you said that she would come home from time to time, but she never came back to North Carolina, never came back to Lumberton to see you guys until after James died.
My dad, I can't remember.
Okay. You indicated, let's go. I mean, I'm going to get into this, and I know you might not like it, but your dad, James Lowry, did have a drinking problem.
Yes, he did, as far as I know.
You would get drunk and he'd beat the piss out of your mom.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, as far as I know, yep.
Sometimes it'd be so bad that your mom would have to take all you kids to a hotel room until he sobered up.
Yep.
Sometimes your mom would have to go to work and James be the one watching after you kids. Correct?
Yep.
One time, James gave you so much alcohol that you passed out. Well, they went up to
Overruled.
one time, James gave you so much alcohol that you passed out.
Yep.
And you were under, so if you passed when you were 7, you would have had been, what, 4, 5, or 6?
When you asked
You
that,
passed out. Remember how old you were?
I was like 3.
Okay. You indicated that, I think you said before, that she would sometimes freak out if something was out of place.
Yep.
Stout. And also, do you recall that sometimes when Miss Stout would come visit you or see you, sometimes she would leave you knives so you'd be able to protect yourself?
Yep, she did do that.
No further questions?
Correct.
Yes, sir, thanks. Tell us a little bit more about your dad. Was he in the armed forces?
Yep.
What branch?
Air Force.
And did he go to war?
I believe he did.
And did that create problems for him?
Yep.
Tell the jury about that. What changed with your dad when he got back from war?
All I know is my mom always told me when he stepped off that plane,
Hold on, just a moment. Yeah, sustained. You can talk about what you observed. You can't talk about what somebody else told you. Okay?
I mean, I can't really talk about him because I was 3 when they separated. I was 7 when he died.
That's all right.
Okay. That's okay. It's all right.
Now, earlier we talked about your mom being protective of the kids. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
If something was going on with your dad and the kids, what would your mom do?
She don't play about her kids. Something went on between. I don't know how she did Daddy, but I know if something went on between her and like her ex-boyfriends or whatever, and they wanted to come to us or say something to us, she didn't play about us. She protected us.
She protected you kids? Did she protect herself?
Yep.
Did you ever see her hit your dad?
I don't remember hitting on. I don't remember. I can't remember much of my daddy because I was so young. But I know her boyfriend after my daddy, Greg, he would hit on her, and she would fight him back.
Did you want to be here today to testify?
Nope.
Did you get subpoenaed and that's why you came out here?
Yep.
Mr. Tellini was asking you questions about insanity or some kind of mental break. And you said initially that's what you thought, but then you said now, no. What did you mean?
I just feel like it's too much got done for you to be saying that now. For her to be saying that.
Well, do you think when she was telling you that there's softball equipment in the suitcase, she knew right from wrong, and she had the capacity to form the intent to do things?
Yep.
Objection meeting overruled.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thanks.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Lowry? Like we have one.
Sorry, you guys.
Counsel, retrieve that question and approach, please.
I'm listening. I'm writing down notes because I know Allie is at the store and I'm trying to think of what she would write down. You know, teamwork be making the dream work. This is very, very difficult testimony for him. You can tell he doesn't want to be there. He's angry at his sister for putting them in this situation as a family because people now are looking at them as if they are something happened.
Mr. Lowry, do you remember where the green suitcase was retrieved from when you were getting the defendant's belongings at the house?
No.
I will allow reasonable follow-up as to that question only. Prosecution.
When was the first time you saw that green suitcase?
When we was switching the vans.
Did you ever see it come out of the house when you guys were moving things out of the house into the first van?
No, not that I can remember.
Thanks, Jeff.
Defense? All right. Thank you, Mr. Lowry. You may step down. Just watch your step. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor, Josh Johnson.
I'm gonna have to turn the page. Well, this is what you would do it for me, Allie. You're the best.
Mr. Johnson, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. Right up here. It's okay. Everybody's a little confused first. Step right on up. Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand. Ms. Gratiano?
Thank you. Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you state your name for the record?
Joshua Johnson,
And in February of 2020, where were you employed?
budget truck rental on Garden of the Gods Road.
And how long had you worked there?
At that time, like 15, 16 years.
Over the course of that 15, 16 years, how many cars, vans, et cetera, would you say that you've rented out?
I'm sorry, Mel.
Thousands.
Let's write to
And
YouTube.
to be clear, what kind
tell
of
'em.
company is Budget?
They
Oh, we
need
rent
to-
moving trucks.
They need a strongly worded letter.
And do they come in all different sizes?
Yeah, they start out at little cargo vans, like what you see Amazon driving, all the way up to 26-foot trucks.
And I feel sure if we sign
And
it,
what was your
Big
role
spoon,
while you were
little
working with
spoon?
Budget?
they're
I
gonna,
would rent the trucks,
Pay
clean the
attention.
trucks, check them in. That's about it.
Okay. And in terms of renting the trucks, can you break down kind of the initial process of renting to someone? What are the steps that you take?
Well, it comes in if they have a reservation. We would get their reservation out, check their driver's license, check the credit card, enter everything into the system, show them the vehicle, give them the keys, and then they're on their way.
Okay. And in terms of, you mentioned checking an ID. How is that generally presented by the person that reserved it, by the person who appears in front of you? How does that work?
Well, if the person who's renting it, they have to be there. So we check their driver's license and their credit card. If they have someone else driving it as well, we would check additional driver's licenses. But the person whose name's on the reservation has to be the one there at the beginning.
And on February 1st of 2020, were you working that day?
Yes.
And in terms of who is responsible for not only going over the paperwork, but ensuring that an identification is checked and appropriate signatures are obtained, whose role was that?
That was mine for that day.
Your Honor, permission to approach with what has been marked as People's Exhibit 239, previously shown to the defense.
You may go ahead.
Mr. Johnson, if you can take a moment to review what I've handed you marked as People's Exhibit 239, it's pages 1 through 5. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with that.
Okay.
All right. Do you recognize People's Exhibit 239?
Yeah, this is a budget rental contract with the insurance waiver and the damage inspection sheet.
And were you there when those pages were gone over with the person who rented that particular vehicle and the agreement?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, and also I guess I should ask, would you say that that's an accurate representation of a copy of that agreement?
Yes. It has all the pages that would go on a rental agreement.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, we would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 239.
Defense? No objection. Exhibit 239 will be admitted. Go ahead.
All right. And if we can project, and Your Honor, permission to publish as well.
You may.
Mr. Johnson, in front of you is a pointer.
Got the red handle.
It's an old school pointer. So you'll have to extend it.
If it comes off, it's okay.
Bless it,
All right.
they've had so
And
much.
we'll zoom through the exhibit, but I'll ask you to
Budget
point
for
out
dude. Yes,
some different
ma'am.
areas of the agreement because over 15 years of experience, you probably have this memorized. Where would the person's name who rented the vehicle, where does that appear on the first page of People's Exhibit 239?
Right up here under customer information.
Okay, and who is the rental of for that particular vehicle?
It says Letecia stauch.
And you explained that part of your process is to verify somebody's identity through identification of some sort. Did that happen here?
Yes.
Do you know how you did that?
I asked for a driver's license and then the form of payment.
I
which
want
would
a
have to
pointer
match the
too,
driver's
Mel.
license.
And you mentioned that, but can we see that in the zoomed in portion of People's Exhibit 239? Can you point that out?
Yeah, right here it has the last four of the driver's license the state it was issued in, and then the country it was issued in for the driver's license.
Okay, what state is that?
Looks like it's South Carolina, SB.
South Carolina. And you mentioned the budget rental location. Can you point out what address of the budget rental location of the store that you were working at?
Right up here, Palmer House Truck Rentals, 140 East Garden of the Gods Road.
And in terms of the reservation, do you have any idea
Hey,
when
Melissa J.
the reservation or at least the rental agreement formally took place? Do you have a date and time on this document?
Yeah, it was opened on February 1st, 2020 at 8:17 a.m. It doesn't say what day the reservation was made, but that's the day that we opened this contract.
So when, for example, the person identified themselves as Letecia Stauch with an identification card came to you at the store, would this have been approximate time for when this agreement was taking place?
Yeah, that
I
would
think
be when I hit
likely,
the
Jordan,
open
I'm
agreement
not
and typed
sure,
in the
though.
reservation.
Okay.
And it starts at that moment.
All right. And if we could zoom out briefly. Mr. Johnson, can you now point out what the length of that rental agreement was reserved for, where that is?
Right here, the rental date out is actually at the bottom. It's the 1st of February 2020 to the 5th of February 2020 at 8:15.
All right. And in terms of identification of a truck, however large or small it is there a particular identification number that is given to each asset of budget?
Yeah, this one has the vehicle unit number that we have right here.
And we'll zoom in for you there. What-
It's 911739.
Great.
And then it also mentions the size up to the right a little bit.
Okay, well, and what was the size?
Cargo van high roof. There at the top right under rental information. Yep, right there.
Okay. And we'll move on to the second page of that document. Now, Mr. Johnson, here, what is the second page of this rental agreement? What's the function of this page?
This is the actual like contract, what they can and can't do. Mentions fueling up the truck at the beginning. It also explains late fees, drop-off fees, or if they were to use any of the budget easy pass items. And then they would sign for the rental right here.
I would imagine
And
they're not allowed to commit a
And I know you're
crime.
seeing the screen, so it's a little tricky, but if you wouldn't mind just making sure to project your voice, just so the people, the
I
jurors in the back.
apologize.
That's all right. The jurors in the back can hear you. Now, you explained that you go over the terms and conditions. Is that something that takes 15 seconds to do?
It's only a couple of minutes. It's actually not that hard to go over it.
Mhm.
Because the main parts of it are they got to return the truck full of fuel for the top line. Then the next section is just a bunch of wording on they're waiving the right for insurance. And it explains which insurances they did not or did purchase. On this one, they didn't purchase any insurance.
Okay.
And then it goes down into drop-off fees, late fees, and the plate pass for toll roads. Fine, right there.
Now, throughout what we see in the second page of that agreement, there are various spots where initials can be placed.
Correct. 4 initials and then 1 signature from the customer.
And so in reading through that paragraph, it would be your job to make sure that the person is putting their initials at every appropriate spot, right?
Correct.
And so as you're going through page 2 of that agreement, was that being done at every appropriate spot?
Yes.
We'll move on to page 3 of that agreement. All right, now, Mr. Johnson, what is the function of this third page for the rental process?
This page is just showing all the late fees that could occur if it was not returned on time, if they went over on mileage, or any other additional fees that could accrue, which is located on the right side. And then the customer signatures there, and then the dealer initials for us is located on the left.
Okay, and we'll just zoom in a bit. So there's a number of different lines. Fair to say that there are various types of penalties that can accrue if you don't follow the terms of the agreement. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And as you're going over that, on this particular date, was that understood based on how you went through that agreement?
I can't
Yes.
see any emotion, Melissa.
You
'cause
mentioned
obviously
that
the way I
there's
have it.
on the
Give us
bottom
date,
left,
ma'am.
sorry, bottom right side of the agreement, there's a signature that appears.
If that is the customer signature that they understand all the possible fees and charges for any additional.
Okay. And we'll move on to page 4 of the agreement. Now, Mr. Johnson, here, what we see on page 4, what's the function of this particular portion?
This is the insurance page showing that they're waiving all of the insurances. Various types, insurance for the truck, liability, roadside, and towing if they had any.
Okay.
And shows that they denied all of it. And then up here is our rental agreement and then insurance company and policy number of the person renting the truck.
Okay. And again, a little tricky, but just make sure that you keep your voice up.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. So this actual document, the title of this document that we see on page 4 of the agreement, what is the title of this?
Personal financial responsibility certificate.
And you mentioned insurance. How do you verify if that person that's renting the vehicle has insurance?
All they do is write their information there.
Mhm.
And then budget, if anything happens, budget goes for that. We don't do it ourselves. We just go off of what the customer puts up there.
Okay. So in terms of understanding financial responsibility in renting this particular vehicle, was there anything that was left unclear during this rental process on that day?
They sign at the bottom once they've gone through all of this.
And on that particular day, for the person that rented this vehicle known as Letecia Stauch, were there any questions about the financial responsibility she was undertaking that day?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And we'll move on to the last page of that agreement. May have to rotate this one. So it's a little clear for you to read. There we go. Thank you. Right. Now, this is the last page of that agreement. Mr. Johnson, what is the function of this 5th and last page?
This is just to show the damages of the truck as we rented it, so that when it gets to the other location, we have a record of what it looked like before and or after if something were to have occurred. Also includes the mileage of the vehicle when we rent it.
Now, in terms of assessing the damage, is that done only by you or is that done with the renter as well?
That's done with us. We check it all when it comes in
Mhm.
and then mark it all. This one just looks like it just had some typical light scraping, like it brushed against a tree. No actual physical damage to it at all.
Okay. And in terms of acknowledging any sort of defects in that particular rental vehicle, whose signature appears in the middle of that page?
We're talking this one or down here?
We'll start with the first spot.
That one is budget rep initial, so that would be mine.
Okay.
It's like whoever rented it also accidentally initialed there, which is common. And then this is the renter signature and then the date.
Okay. Thank you. You can turn around. Throughout this process, as you were renting this vehicle, you had an opportunity to interact with the person that identified themselves.
Correct.
Okay. And how did that person identify themselves? By what name?
Letecia stauch.
And would you recognize that person if they were here today in court?
Probably not due to the number of trucks I'd rented
Okay.
before and or after it.
And the number of years that have passed?
Yes.
Okay. Throughout that interaction that you had with the person that identified themselves as Letecia Stauch, was there any uncertainty that you had based on renting cars as to whether or not they understood the rules and conditions that applied?
No, I had no concerns with that. Everything seemed pretty normal.
Okay. Had you ever experienced a time where you didn't feel comfortable renting out a car to someone?
Yeah, I had customers that have come in and can smell alcohol on their breath, so we didn't rent them their vehicle that day.
Okay. And in terms of having general concerns about whether or not they understood the agreement, would you have stopped that process at that time?
If there were any issues like that, like concerns that I would have for it, yes.
Okay. And in terms of the responsibility that you undertook as a representative of budget on February 1st of 2020, did you have any concerns as to whether or not the person that presented themselves as Letecia Stauch understood the terms of that rental agreement.
I had no concerns with that, no.
As we went through People's Exhibit 239, there were a number of initials and signatures that appeared on that document.
Correct.
Were those initials and signature
I'll be
consistent
right
with the
back,
same
you
person?
guys. Give me
Yeah.
just 1 second.
And is that name?
Letecia stauch.
And the initials that we would have seen that you've gone through throughout that document, were those initials consistent as well?
Yes.
Your Honor, we'll pass the witness.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cook?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Johnson? Looks like we have one. You would retrieve that and counsel approach, please. Mr. Johnson, when was the budget rental van reservation made? On what date?
We don't have that information on here. It just shows the day that they picked up the truck that they had reserved.
Where was the van to be turned in on February 5 of 2020?
It was due in Grapevine, Texas, on East Dallas Road.
And was this a local rental or a one-way rental?
It was a one-way.
Right.
Pick up here and drop off in Texas.
I will allow reasonable follow-up as to those questions only. Prosecution?
Mr. Johnson, you just explained the drop-off location.
Correct.
Who selects that location?
They do when they reserve it, unless they come in without a reservation.
And is there another opportunity for them to drop off that vehicle at other locations?
Typically what budget has is if you're dropping off like in one city, as long as it's within like 50 miles of the original location, it can be dropped off there with no additional fees or charges.
And if a renter chooses to drop that off at a different location, all those penalties, fines, surcharges, et cetera, may come into play at that point?
Correct. And there could also be additional, like if you're dropping it off 1,000 miles from where it's supposed to, they would charge additional costs based on distance.
Thanks.
Mr. Cook? Follow-up?
Can you tell, or do you know where the truck was ultimately dropped off?
Not for paperwork. Budget would actually have to give the log for it, but I don't have that here.
Thank you.
President Clay. Hold on. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Call Sergeant Roy Ditzler.
Sergeant Ditzler, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about giving this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Please state your name, spell your last for the record.
Yes, my name is Roy A. Ditzler, Ditzler.
What's your occupation?
I am a sergeant with the Colorado Springs Police Department.
How long have you been with the Colorado Springs Police Department?
Uh, February of this year was 21 years for me.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
What are your current duties?
Currently, as of mid to late January, I was assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration Task Force, which investigates drug organizations, large-scale drug organizations.
Sounds pretty exciting, but we're not going to talk about that now. Let's talk about what you were doing back in January of 2020.
Yes, January of 2020, I was assigned to Colorado Springs Police Department's Metro Vice Intelligence Task Force, or unit, and I was the supervisor of the intelligence unit.
And what does the intelligence unit do?
So I was responsible for coordinating and allocating resources for undercover operations, surveillance activity, conducting investigations that involve threats to city government entities, law enforcement entities, domestic terrorism incidents. I was also assigned as a joint terrorism task force officer with the FBI at that time.
Back on January 31st of 2020, were you asked to assist in the investigation of the disappearance of Gannon Stout?
Yes, I was asked by my lieutenant at the time, John Koch, to reach out and contact Detective Abenshan with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. I was informed that he needed assistance or assets from our division for surveillance activity.
Were you also asked to place a GPS device on a vehicle?
Yes, sir. As part of that surveillance activity, I was asked to affix a GPS tracker to a vehicle. Yes, sir.
And what is a GPS tracker?
GPS tracker is like a magnetic device. They vary in sizes, but you affix them to the undercarriage of a vehicle. They can be affixed or to various types of property, but in this case specific, it was going to be affixed to a vehicle. So the magnet affixes or attaches to a metal property under the undercarriage of the vehicle. They vary in sizes. They could be 1 inch by 1 inch. They could be 3 inches by 4 inches. And they really just look like a piece of thin rubber that covers the actual magnet itself, and it operates with a GPS.
And why were you asked to come in to do that? Is there a technique or plan on installing these GPS devices on vehicles?
Yes, well, as being assigned or part of being assigned to Metro VNI, we oftentimes get tasked with placing those trackers, GPS devices on vehicles or property. It's a bit of a specialized detail. I've provided training to detectives at the division on proper installation and how to use those devices once they're affixed. The application that you can use on your phone or a computer to track the said item that you affix the tracker to. You can place geofences around a certain area that you want to receive alert or notification on if a vehicle is going to move and it moves out of a certain area. You might receive a notification to your phone or to your computer letting you know that it was moving.
Sounds like there's various ways to use this device and monitor the movement of the vehicle. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Is there also is covertness to it? Do you want the person who owns the vehicle to know that you're placing this GPS device on it?
No, sir.
And why is that?
Well, one of the reasons that you may use a GPS tracker as an investigative technique is to minimize exposure or the chance that the person you're trying to surveil may find out or figure out that you're actually surveilling them. They may see you affixing a tracker. They may see the same vehicles passing by multiple times, and that could compromise an investigation. So you want to use techniques and tactics to use undercover methods to even install the tracker.
So what information did you receive on January 31st of 2020 to go through this process of the surveillance and installation of the GPS tracker?
So Detective Abenshan requested that Metro VNI units and myself respond out to 6627 Mandan Drive out in the county of El Paso, which was Letecia Stauch's residence. Deputies had been on scene conducting a keep the peace investigation, and he informed me that he wanted surveillance to be conducted on a vehicle associated to Letecia stauch. That vehicle was described as a 2020 silver Nissan sedan and Altima, and that there was a secondary vehicle also associated at the time, and that was a white Ford van.
And was one of the things you wanted to do is to see whether or not this vehicle might lead to the whereabouts of Gannon Stauch?
Yes.
So talk to us about when you get out to 6627 Mandan Drive, what do you see going on?
Well, the first units to arrive out, and Detective Reader was the effective. He was the primary activity going on at the house. When the specific vehicle that we're watching was moving, the occupants that were inside that vehicle could be aired out over the radio, so we could adjust our surveillance assets to follow that vehicle away from the house. It was reported to me that Letecia stauch and her daughter, Miss Hunt, were loading up belongings from the house into the vehicles.
And did you see that when you got to that residence?
I did not. I was set up for a takeaway location, so I did not have a visual on the residence.
And how many vehicles are we talking about that are part of this surveillance team?
Well, I requested numerous assets from the 40s team. The 40s is a street level narcotics team that usually consists back then was like 6 to 7 personnel. They're no longer in existence. I requested assistance from the 50s. Is another street level narcotics team. Again, the same number of personnel assigned, and requested assets from the 80s, who is also a street level narcotics team. However, their focus is marijuana. They're a slightly larger team. Reason I asked for so many assets to respond out there, who actually didn't, or not all of those assets arrived until later on in the surveillance operation when we were downtown, is because it's difficult to
Oh my, I'll be
account
back.
for
Yes,
one
hold on,
vehicle,
let me
primary
mute him.
vehicle, let
He
alone
gets
2
me, sir.
vehicles, setting up enough takeaways to be able to follow somebody away.
Mo, have a great rest of your day, and I will be live at 7 Eastern over here. We're going to do a recap of all the things, including Valo.
If somebody gets out on foot, the subject that you're surveilling gets out on foot and is going into businesses, or you want to follow them around in a particular area, to send a resource out there to do that is pretty taxing.
I'm going to speed him up also because we're
so
like way behind.
The time frame
We're
of the
almost all the way
activity
caught up.
being around the downtown
speed
area.
him
We
up
reached the
anyway.
downtown area around 1500 hours, and we all know, if you're familiar with springs, in the downtown it's pretty busy, it's rush traffic. We don't know where an individual may or may not. Becomes very taxing to maintain surveillance, at least until you can affix the GPS tracker, which Detective Abenshan had informed me he was applying to the court for the issuance of a search warrant so that we could do that.
Now, I'm assuming that you're all in undercover vehicles and you're in an undercover capacity. You're not wearing police uniforms, that kind of thing.
That is correct.
So who did you follow? Who did you start your surveillance on starting at 627 Mandan Drive?
And were you driving a black
Well, I was part of
BMW?
the pack, if you will. I didn't really get close to the target vehicle until we left the neighborhood of 6627 Mandan Drive. So we got to the downtown area around East Kiowa and North Tejon Avenue. It was at that point that I actually had to make a move and get close enough to the vehicle, because we didn't know if they were going to, whoever was driving the silver sedan was going to actually park downtown, continue through downtown. So I just ended up being in a position at that intersection to watch Letecia stauch and her daughter exit the vehicle at the intersection and walk northbound on Tejon. And then the vehicle continued through the intersection and parked just to the east of that intersection, where I relayed that information to other units who picked up or maintained an eye of that vehicle, so to say.
And so which vehicle are we talking about?
At that point, it was the silver Nissan Altima sedan.
And did
She's-
you have
yeah, she is,
photos, or
Nate.
did you know who
She's
Letecia
extra
stauch was and who
fidgety.
Harley Hunt was before you began the surveillance?
Yes, that information was relayed by Detective Abenshan, I believe, at the onset of that investigation.
So you said you were downtown around 1500 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon on the 31st.
Yes, sir.
What happens after they stop the car and you said the defendant and her daughter get out of the car?
It looked like they were walking towards the Rutledges, about the 100 block of North Tejon. Just was unable to maintain that eye to see where in fact they had walked to, but we were able to maintain an eye on the vehicle that they had exited, which was the Nissan. So we just took up continued surveillance positions in that area for the takeaways because the white Ford van
Oh,
had
I
also
hear you,
parked
Regina.
close
This
by
is-
in the vicinity. I don't remember the
gonna be
exact
busy.
area, but we kept an eye on both of those.
I knew what you meant,
vehicles.
babe.
Where did the Nissan Altima ultimately go? And did you track it? What direction it go? That kind of thing.
So eventually, the occupants all come back from whatever store they were in or whatever area. I couldn't tell you what store they might have went into, but Letecia and her daughter come back to the silver Nissan. They meet up with the occupants of the white van temporarily, and then both vehicles go mobile again. We continue our surveillance, ultimately ending at 5855 Corporate Drive, which is the Extended Stay America Hotel on the north side of Colorado Springs up by Woodman. I guess would be a major intersection that you might be familiar with. The vehicle parked in there, nosed into a parking space. And about that same time, I received information from Detective Abenshan that the search warrant had been signed and that we could go ahead and affix the GPS tracker.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to point out how I've been watching this and trying to figure out this setup over here at the defense table. And if you look here, this looks to be one table, right? And then Letecia has a second desk going this way. And I just wanted to remark that they've got her pretty well pinned in there. I would assume that's due to her shenanigans during her extradition. So, and then her, using a broom to escape. Oh, as part of her escape plan. Let me just amend that. I don't think she intended to escape on the broom, although with that hairdo, she looks like she could. She looks like Broomhilda in the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Yeah, that's what she looks like. Okay, that's what I wanted to point out.
And so where did you place this GPS tracker physically on the car?
So interestingly enough, it was as you can see, I'm not a small guy and drawing the short straw, I guess. The Nissan was really a bit of a low profile vehicle. Ordinarily, if time afforded or time allowed, you'd want to really pull up the schematics and look at the
No,
undercarriage.
Lupe,
maybe
I
on
cannot.
Google
If I
or the
had to
internet,
do
right,
all
and-
three,
and see where
I don't know how I would do
place.
it.
We didn't have that time. And if you don't have that kind of time, it's also beneficial to be able to
Yes,
crawl way
Daniel.
up under that car and look at the undercarriage because you want to make sure you get a good seat with that magnet to the metal. No direction across far under as I could, and just was going by feel because there's don't want the track comes off and you don't want to be that person. To under there for a seat and then confirm that the tracker was properly and that that the system was operating properly from Detective Abenshan.
Did you have anything to do with the frequency of the GPS hits that the tracker would get back to the sheriff's office?
No,
How
that
would
would be
that
set by
work?
the lead investigator or whoever wrote the search warrant for that.
Those are my questions, Jared. Thanks.
Cross-examination.
No.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective or for Sergeant Ditzler? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down. right, ladies.
Hold on a second.
We will take our morning recess. If I can have.
All right, they're going to take a morning recess. So I'm going to, as far as the being shackled under the table, that might be why she's turned the way that she is, why there is a desk that way. I know that she's clearly not shackled at the waist. But there was some talk about like a a shock restraint. And I, of course, volunteered to be the person who holds the controller of the shocker. I volunteered that also for George Wagner. I think I'm excellent to be the shock holder, whatever the controller is. I'm excellent with controllers. So I like to hold the remotes at home. I am proficient with all game console controllers. So I think I would be an excellent candidate to hold the controller for whatever shock device they have affixed to one Letecia stauch. Now, as far as what we are, you know what, Nadine, because I adore you so much, I would be willing to share the controller with you. Like we could take turns due to the fact that sometimes a girl needs to go take a moment outside, and I'll leave it at that. So there you go. We could take turns. It'd be like teamwork, you know? Um, yeah, there was talk about that. There was talk that she might be shocked. I also wanted to talk to you guys about something else. Well, lots of things while we have 19 minutes and 53 seconds. One of the, Crime Curious, she does a recap on Thursdays. And what makes her Thursday evening recap so great is that she has a criminal defense attorney who has done both private practice and public defender. And he is super cool about answering questions. And the thing of it is, the way that he answers the questions, you could have like literally no knowledge of the law at all. And he explains it in a way that is super easy for everybody to understand. It's very, very like user friendly. And so anyway, oh, hold on. I almost did something to my stream here. Almost ended it. Haha. Anyway, so that would have been terrible. So one of the questions that I submitted is about the jury, because it's a little bit confusing. And I was talking about this on Brittany J's panel Sunday night, as far as what the verdicts are that the jury could render. Specifically, can they render a not guilty verdict? Well, let me just start again. Can they render a guilty, not guilty by reason of insanity, or completely acquit her and not guilty across the board, right? Or because a not guilty by reason of insanity is what's the word I'm looking for? It's an acknowledgement. Like a not guilty by reason of insanity is not saying that the person did not commit the crime. A not guilty by reason of insanity means that at the time the crime was committed, the person was legally insane, and therefore should be remanded. Should they be found guilty, or should they be found not guilty by reason of insanity, rather than go to prison, they should go to a mental health hospital. So I submitted that question in email, and I'm very, very, very curious about what the answer is, because I want to know, like, can they actually completely acquit her? And I don't think that they can, but what do I know? I mean, I'm not an attorney. I cover trials, but like first of all, I couldn't prosecute somebody because I'm not an attorney. And I couldn't defend somebody because, hello, I'm not an attorney. So I was curious about that. And then I wanted to go over a little bit of what, we saw today and what we might be seeing as far as who is going to be coming up next after this break. I feel like there is a reason that everybody is asking about Harley. Um, I sped it up at the end, Allie, which you're going to hear this whenever you catch up, babe. Um, so I'm very, very curious about Miss Harley, if she will be testifying today. And I feel like there's a reason that people keep asking. And it is essential. That's the word I was looking for. It is an admission that she committed the crime. What's in question is whether she was sane or insane under the law. That's what's in question. So I am very confused as to if the, I don't think that the jury can completely acquit her. But again, I think that is a question that's best left to a professional, i.e. an attorney. So that's what I'm going to ask. If I emailed it to her, because I know she had said last time, if you guys have questions, just email them and whatnot. And I thought that might be easy, but I know she's incredibly busy. She's attending the trial and stuff. So if it, I'll ask it again on Thursday night. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this Harley situation, because I feel like there's a reason you guys are all asking if I think she's going to testify today. And I think that it's a distinct possibility, just in the way that the prosecution has presented their case thus far. And, you know, like chronologically, not in order, like more like in order of the way the crime would have been committed, not in order of the way the crime was investigated, if that makes sense. So I feel like she's probably today or tomorrow, at the very least. I also don't think that she stands a snowball's chance in hell. I do not think the jury is going to buy this not guilty by reason of insanity. However, I'm anxiously awaiting what the state puts on as far as their psychiatrist goes, and B, of course, Dr. Lewis, because I'm very, very interested in what she used to make this diagnosis and determination. So I'm very, very interested in that. And I mean, they're stacking it up right now. The state. I mean, during their opening, the defense says that, and this is a loose quote, but Letecia was not unaliving Gannon that day. She was unaliving the demons, and that she had been the victim of all kinds of abuse at the hands of various boyfriends of her mother's and a stepdad. And that is what caused her to have dissociative identity disorder. But I think that with with her brother, her half brother testifying, although it would be difficult for him to testify, there's a large age gap between them as far as when they lived together, and he couldn't really testify a whole lot about the interactions between Letecia and his father. But he did talk a lot about the way his mom was, because that was another allegation, that Letecia's mom just sort of left the men in her life in charge of the kids. And that is very much not the picture that her brother Dakota painted. And his testimony was hard for him and hard to hear, because bless his heart, I mean, what a difficult position to be in. That's your sister. And I think by and large, most people believe, that family is everything, and you defend each other to the end. Like, I mean, with my sister, I can say what I want about my sister. She's my sister, but nobody else better. And I just think that's pretty true for most people. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions, right? So, I you could tell it was difficult for him. You could tell that he was put in a difficult situation. And you could also tell that he's quite angry with Letecia, angry about the crime that she committed, but she believes that she did commit. And, but also angry at what the crime that she committed did to his family. I mean, it's essentially like a black mark on their family. And this is something that we hear very, very frequently. There used to be a show, and I don't think they have it on anymore, but there used to be a show on the ID channel. And it dealt with the family of the victim and then the family of the perpetrator. And the very first episode was the smiley face killer was Jefferson and his daughter. And his daughter met with the families of her father's victims. And it was really an interesting show because it was, I think, in my opinion, from what I could see on the show, granted it's obviously edited, etc., but it seemed like for both sides it was cathartic. She needed to apologize to the victims' families, right? But she also needed their forgiveness. And I think it was cathartic for both of them. The other one that I really distinctly remember was Richard Ramirez's family. It was his niece, and I believe his, I feel like aunt. But yeah, I thought it was, in fact, that specific episode was, they met with one of the survivors of Richard Ramirez. So yeah, I thought it was really, really interesting. And, you know, this is the other thing, so much this, Allie, so much this. What an act of betrayal, because we're talking about this really with kind of with Harley as well. He unknowingly and unwittingly, in a sense, aided her. You know, I mean, that's how I would feel. I know legally that's, you know, that doesn't mean anything because obviously it was unknowing, but you know, I'm sure that in the interim that he and his family members were scrutinized, not just by the public, which is, I think, sometimes probably worse than scrutiny that you face with law enforcement, because you know how people can be, especially online. So he was not their fan, you know, he was not only scrutinized by the public, but I'm sure law enforcement was scrutinizing him. You know, they wanted to make sure, you know, he didn't know anything. And when you have hindsight, and this is what I think was most difficult for him. This is what I felt was the most difficult for him. Absolutely, true crime crazy. I will come live. I promise. My thing with what I thought was so compelling about his testimony was when it centered around the suitcase. You know, obviously now he knows the significance of that suitcase. And at the time, he felt that something was off, but he just couldn't quite put his finger on it, you know? And can you imagine after Gannon's body is discovered and you're hearing about it on the news, and I'm sure that law enforcement, you know, contacted him and his family and stuff, but you find out that you had this weird feeling about this suitcase and you felt something was off, but never in 11 billion years would you ever guess that that suitcase that you felt you had a feeling about was used in the capacity that it was used. I mean, I would imagine that it would keep you up at night. I think it would keep me up at night for sure. And so I can understand his anger to her. And it's complex when it's your family. It's, a lot of times when it's deals with family members, anger um, most frequently is expressed by tears and by sadness, because only your family really, really can hurt you in that way. Do you know what I mean? And it's just not something that you expect from a family member. Yes, Shattered. That's what it's called. Yeah, I think you're right. Elisa, I think you're right. That's the name of the show. It's a really good show. But I just, I can't imagine what that must feel like. And the fact that, bless his heart, um, it sounds like he has not seen Letecia since he moved her, helped her move. You know what I mean? Which means that even though um, it's been 3 years since this all began, right? He hasn't been in contact with her while she's been in jail awaiting trial. And I think that that's got to be hard. And I think that um, I mean, we don't know if he's written her or not because we don't have any way of knowing that. But I feel like if he has, she probably hasn't written back. And I think that's a lot of the reason why there was the outburst this morning from him. I don't want to call it an outburst because that's kind of has a bad connotation. But let me just say it like this. I think that's why we saw the raw emotion that we saw this morning, although we missed it. Thanks, Law and Crime. But just because he wanted her to answer that question, and I think his emotions got the better of him. And I mean, obviously, she's not going to answer that question, you know what I mean? But I just think, for I feel like after he got that off of his chest, and once he settled down. I mean, obviously he's nervous, and obviously there's a ton of emotions there. But I think for the most part, his testimony went relatively smoothly. I am not all that surprised at the defense choosing not to cross-examine some of the witnesses. There isn't really anything to be gained from cross-examination. I mean, with the budget rental gentleman, what can they ask him? With the wait, did they cross-examine him? Oh, brother, I feel like they didn't. Also, I want to speaking of the budget truck rental. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I am not the world's best at geography. However, I did live in Texas almost all of my life, except for the first 10 years. Texas is in the middle, the southern middle of the country. Okay? That is, it's not a border, and South Carolina is not a border state to Texas. So I don't understand the situation with the car. Or with the truck rental. I don't understand why they would drop the truck off in Texas if it was a one way. Do y'all? Did I hear that wrong? Okay. Did I hear that wrong? I feel like I did. I mean, or I missed something. My heart broke for her brother too. Oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, I can't wait. You guys are you are not gonna want to miss me and my trial buddy, Allie, tonight at 7. She, bless her heart, she's been doing all the things. I'm taking the notes and she's covering the Twitters. She's doing a fantastic job. All right, here they go. So we're working hard for y'all to bring you the latest on all the trials since we can't watch Vallow. Okay, thank you. I've learned a lot. So what did they do with their stuff?
You okay, Kimberly?
I'm so confused. Like they dropped their truck off in Texas. Where'd they unpack stuff? Or did they pick up another vehicle? I'm so confused. Maybe we'll hear more about that because this makes no sense to me. I mean, Letecia just on a good day. I mean, this is a routine, a move is really routine. Like there's things you have to do, right? It's pretty straightforward. You have to load up a vehicle at one location and take it to the new location and unload it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? Oh, they did transfer it in another van. I guess I missed that part. Well, see, that's the thing. But the way I
All rise for the jury, please.
hold on, let me just mute them really quick. Okay, so the way that I understood it, what the brother was talking about is initially it was in their aunt's cargo van, and the aunt was like, no, you're not going to be driving the vehicle all that far, so that's when they went to budget, and they took the items from the cargo van and put it in the budget
I
one.
think you may almost see it.
That's what
Call 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch.
That's what I thought.
Has returned to the courtroom. Prosecution. Next
I'll
witness,
have to
please.
re-listen to
Thanks,
his.
Judge. We would call Lieutenant Jake Abenshan.
Okay, so now this officer is the other officer that was part of the team that
Lieutenant,
surveilled
if you would step forward, raise your right hand, please, sir.
Letecia's vehicle.
You swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Jacob Abenshan. Last name is spelled Abendschan.
What is your occupation?
I've been a deputy sheriff for 21 years.
And what is your current duties?
I'm a lieutenant for the patrol division.
What does a lieutenant for the patrol division do?
A lot of administrative work, as near as I can tell. Just overseeing the general operations of the day shift on patrol.
Sounds like a blast.
You would think.
Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again. Let me take you back to 2020. What was your role with the sheriff's office back in 2020?
In 2020, I was a detective sergeant in the investigations division.
And as a detective sergeant, were you involved in the investigation of the disappearance of Gannon
Thank
Stout?
you, AS Sunshine.
Back on January
Thank
27th,
you.
2020.
Okay, that makes more
I did have
sense.
some involvement with that case.
And particularly on January 31st, 2020, were you
Thank you.
responsible for the placement and monitoring of a
Something
GPS
ain't right.
device on a particular rental vehicle?
Yes, I coordinated getting an electronic surveillance device to members of the Metro Vice and Narcotics Unit to place on a Nissan Altima that had been rented by Letecia stauch.
And why did you want to do that, or why did the investigation kind of go down that road?
The GPS trackers are a good investigative tool when we are trying to identify
That's a good question.
whether a person or a vehicle is in a particular place at a particular time.
What I'm wondering is what the level of surveillance was permitted. Because remember now, they have permission to surveil her vehicle in Colorado, but I don't know if they had permission to surveil her vehicle outside of the state of Colorado. Maybe we'll get to hear that because I'm curious about that.
I met the
I met VNI at the Police Operations Center downtown and handed them the tracking device.
Did you have to obtain a warrant before the device was actually placed on this rental vehicle?
Someone did, yes. I did not.
Was this rental vehicle a silver Nissan Altima?
I believe so, yes.
And so what was your role going to be once this device was placed on this Nissan Altima?
Once it was activated, I had the ability at the time to log into the system and basically see where the tracker was at any given time. And it's kind of it generates
MVP.
almost like a
You want
latitude,
something?
longitude, and addresses to let us know kind of how the vehicle is moving.
And would you be monitoring this
Oh, thank
24/7
you.
or would
You're
it just be
crazy.
randomly looked at?
Not 24/7. It keeps a historical record of the addresses that a vehicle was at, how long it stopped, what time it was there, that kind of thing. I
Now I'll say
did that
this.
evening.
It's
make some
only
periodic
GPS
checks to ensure that it is
So it's
registering.
not like they would
before it
have
run out of
video
battery or
footage of
something,
her with
that
the
would be,
suitcase.
an
So
expensive issue.
And do you have the ability to set the timing on this GPS device as to when it would, I don't know what the proper term is, but go off to say where the vehicle is placed at any given time?
There is like a time adjustment that you can use based on how long you think it's going to be placed. For this one in particular, I can't remember what the exact time frame was. Probably 1 or 2 minutes at most, but it can go as long as 10 minutes or every 5 seconds as needed.
And did you have the ability to change that during the time period the GPS tracker was on the vehicle?
Yes.
I can't answer that,
And
Corky. I have no idea why.
are you capable
happened.
of, well, not you personally, but can you print out a document that would reflect the GPS pings where the vehicle was at any given time while the tracker was on it?
Yes, I am. And it's a report. It's called an
Yeah, so
address report,
they
which
have her at the
basically for
bridge,
the
but
time frame
they
that
would
you
have
select,
hold on a second. I don't want to scream over.
will list everywhere the vehicle had gone during that time period.
So they would have her
intervals of
they
time,
would have GPS of
every
her
minute
at the
or so.
bridge, but the only thing they would be able to
And did you do
ascertain
that for this
about the
particular vehicle,
bridge is that
Nissan
A,
Altima?
she was at the bridge, and B,
And was
how
those
long she was
timeframes
there.
January 31st,
But
2020?
I don't think that
at
they thought that she would
1:38
drive his
PM
body all the way
February
to
1st,
Florida. I think they thought he
2020,
was in Colorado,
at
because remember they
4:44
found that
PM.
board
Does that sound right?
and
Yes,
stuff,
that
and that
sounds
was
right.
local.
And in front of
So I
you
think
there
that's kind of
is
what they were
Exhibit
thinking.
230. Do you see that?
I do.
And do you recognize what People's Exhibit 230 is?
Yes, this is the address report. It's the same as the one I attached to my supplement to the case.
And does that accurately reflect the pings that came off this GPS device that was attached to the Nissan Altima that was related to Letecia Stauch, the defendant in this case?
Yes.
Well,
Move
transporting
to
a
admit
body
People's
across
Exhibit
state lines is a federal crime.
Hold on. At one point you referred to it as 220.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
And that's previously admitted through Detective Perry. So are we talking 230, not 220?
230. I apologize, Your Honor.
Just want to make sure it's clear. 230 will be admitted. Go ahead.
And so for the record, it 230 is a 5-page report that has various.
But I think that Nadine has it right.
Yes.
I think,
230, please.
I got it.
We zoom in on that just a little bit.
I think that Nadine has it right though, that because the unaliving which would be the most serious
So what we did. is we
of
zoomed in
all
on
of
the
the
top of
charges and have the most time behind it, right? Occurred strictly in Colorado and not across state lines, then maybe I think that's why.
Through the different columns and explain what we're looking at here for the jury.
Absolutely. So the first column, the device is,
But Lupe, I gotta delete your comment out of the chat because it has those words in it, which I appreciate you looking it up for us. It's just YouTube gets so uppity about that stuff.
Jake.
So thank you though.
And time it gives the date and that tracker device is currently experiencing. At this point, it may have been sitting on my desk or in a car or something while I was waiting. The speed was 0 miles per hour. Park time, generally, that's like if it moves from one spot to another and then stops, it'll give us, like the third line down, 26 seconds. And then it gives an estimated address. 16 East Castilla would be basically the sheriff's office, main office, or the parking garage directly
Look,
behind
you
it,
guys help me out
which
a
is
lot.
where,
All of the
where my
mods do, and
office
I'm
was.
super grateful for it. I can delete a comment.
So then next it's giving a latitude and longitude. So
It's nice. I
those
just
are
want
the
you guys
GPS
to come in
coordinates
here and be able to
on
enjoy
that
the
device.
That would match to the address that's listed in the previous.
Yes, it would be very close, yes.
So at the first entry, is it safe to say that the GPS device is at the sheriff's office?
I'm gonna.
I
mute
would
real
feel
quick. I'll be
comfortable
right
with that,
back.
yes.
If we could go to page 2. And if we can scroll down to 1458. Thank you. So we've done that now. We're kind of in the middle of page 2 of People's Exhibit 230. I'll turn your attention to the time of 1458, which is 2:58 in the afternoon. Is that right?
Yes.
That entry of the location, are you familiar with that address? 6275 Corporate Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
I think it's a hotel, but I can't be certain.
Would that be the Extended Suites Hotel?
It could be, again, I'm not sure.
And do you know where the GPS device was placed on the Nissan?
I do not.
Okay. Needless to say, that's the north side of town, that particular address.
Yes.
And so what can we tell? Because that address is on there multiple times. If we can just scroll down a little bit, please. Does that indicate to you that the vehicle is not moving if it is placed on that vehicle at that time?
Yes, that would be the park time, where it's just kind of resting.
And then we go down to 1537, and it says device in motion over 5 miles an hour. What does that mean?
That means that the device itself attached to the vehicle is moving and moving faster than 5 miles an hour.
Does that mean the vehicle's moving?
Yes, it would.
And so at 3:37 on January 31st, the vehicle is now in motion.
Yes.
We can go ahead and scroll down now, please. We can go to 15, that's fine right there, 1538. So at 3:38, it's at 585 Corporate Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Yes.
Is that the general area of where it was at 6275 Corporate Drive?
That would be close, yes.
Now, if we can go down to 1545, please. Right there's good. So at 3:45, again, we see the device in motion. What does that mean to you?
That line at 1545, it was moving 22 miles an hour in a southwesterly direction.
How about below that at 1600 or 4 PM on January 31st? Does it tell you the speed of the vehicle there as well?
Yes, 52 miles an hour.
And if we can just scroll down, the vehicle is definitely moving now because it goes 52, 57, 43. Is that right?
Yes.
And so I want to turn your attention to the highlighted portion there, January 31st at 4:41. What's going on at that entry?
With that entry, we have a brief stop in the area of 15291 South Perry Park.
And why do you say brief stop?
The park time doesn't indicate it was, very long at all.
And what's the significance of this location and vehicle being
Became an area of interest later in the investigation.
were there huge searches going on in that area related to this particular stop?
Yes, there were.
And why were there huge searches going on in that area?
We were searching for evidence or Gannon's body in the area.
And is that because the vehicle associated with Letecia Stauch stopped in that area?
That played into our decision to search the area, yes.
And so when this particular stop happens, and is this in the Palmer Lake area?
This is just north of Palmer Lake on Highway 105, just north of the county line, actually.
And on Highway 85, or was it 195?
105.
105, I'm sorry. On Highway 105, is there an area of that known as the S curve just north of Palmer Lake?
Yes,
Is that what we're talking about here, this address?
yes.
When this was actually happening, were you monitoring the GPS device live, or did you come across this at a later time?
It was likely at a later time.
If we can go ahead and just scroll down, about right there's good. So at 4:58, the vehicle now is going how fast?
Miles an hour westbound.
So can you tell by looking at this, the frequency of the GPS pings?
Well, that looks like 5 minutes, every 5 minutes.
And would that be consistent throughout? Tell us how that works.
Boy, somebody else would probably have to get into the specifics on when it gets into that.
Is the GPS device designed to ping if the vehicle stops, for instance?
Yes.
And if it doesn't stop, will it go every 5 minutes?
Yeah, that would,
So
depending on what the setting, and, based on that, I probably set it for 5 minutes just out of concern of the battery dying.
the battery dies, you don't get any GPS data, is that right?
Right.
Just have a second, Your Honor. Can we scroll down to page 3 at 1823? So at 1823, we're back at 5850 Corporate Drive. Is that right?
Yes.
And is that the same area that the vehicle was at roughly at 3:38 PM on January 31st?
Yes.
And so now we're at 6:23 PM, is that right?
Yes.
And finally, can we go to the last page of People's Exhibit 230, please? You can scroll down to, that's good right there. We can just scroll over to get this. Thank you, appreciate it. So on February 1st, 10:52 a.m., the vehicle is in Castle Rock. That
Yes, that is correct.
vehicle is heading north at this point.
Yes.
We can scroll down to 1606. That's good. And so at 4:06 p.m., the vehicle now in Denver.
Yes, at the rental car return or rental car area at DIA.
And do you have information to corroborate the individuals who rented this vehicle, returned the vehicle back at DIA?
One of the detectives got information that the car had been returned, and so we sent someone up to retrieve the GPS device off the car.
Now, this information that we have in People's Exhibit 230, is it common for other individuals to use this data in conjunction with self data, GPS data from other vehicles to kind of coordinate where individuals are at any given time?
Yes, we have that capability.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
No questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Do any of you have any questions for Lieutenant Abenshan? All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Brian Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear from the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Go ahead and have a seat. Witness stand, please. Watch your step as you step in. Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Good. Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the court reporter?
I am Detective Brian Rogers. I work for the Colorado Springs Police Department as a digital forensics detective. And my last name is Rogers.
Pretty easy spelling.
Yes.
You said that you work for Colorado Springs Police Department, and I think you mentioned what you do. Can you repeat that, please?
I'm a digital forensics detective.
What does that mean?
I extract and examine data from digital devices like computers, cell phones, video surveillance systems, and vehicles.
What kind of education do you have and training do you have that allows you to do that kind of work?
I have a bachelor's degree in software engineering, a master's degree in information systems security. And since I started that position, I've attended over 700 hours in training directly related to digital forensics in computers, cell phones, videos, and vehicles.
What do you actually do to, you just mentioned a bunch of different devices. What do you actually do to those devices to extract data from them?
It depends on the type of device or the operating system or even the type of security that is set up on the device. But I'll either have to communicate with the device, like change some settings and extract the information if I have the password or if there is no security. If there is security on a device, I have to try and find a way to break into it or circumvent that security and extract the information.
How many devices have you worked on in your career?
Over my career, I wouldn't know. Last year, I did over 700 cell phones and over 100 computers. I believe over 20 surveillance systems and a few vehicles.
Just last year alone?
Yes.
Do you have certifications as well?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
I am an NCASE certified examiner. NCASE is one of our digital forensic suites. It's used for examining data. I'm a certified hacking forensic investigator. I'm also certified in analyzing vehicle data, and I'm a certified forensic analyst.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
I was previously, but I did let that lapse. We weren't getting any benefit from the organization.
All right. Have you been qualified and tested as an expert witness in court?
Yes,
How many times?
more than 50 in this district.
Have you testified in any other districts besides the 4th Judicial District?
Yes.
Now, I am very curious if we're actually going to get to the digital forensics at this point, if we're going to see stuff. That's what I thought was going to happen yesterday. And well, it didn't. But I guess because this is the officer that, or agent, detective, expert that physically analyzed the data, that's, probably what we'll hear. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it back up.
Detective, do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize the barcode number. I just looked at this out in the hallway before I
Okay.
came in.
So it's actually a manila envelope, correct?
Yes.
Is it typical that the
Hey,
work
Sunshine,
you do is
you
placed
should
on some
see
other medium, either a
my
disk or maybe
arms
even a
and
hard
legs
drive, and then
from
put in a
moving.
similar
I'm
envelope?
all banged up. I
Yes,
have no
that happens.
idea how I
Otherwise,
got
we'll
over
preserve it
half of
online
them.
in one of our
I
records
know the
management
only
systems.
one I know
Okay.
how I got. I
So
got a
does
bruise
this
on my
particular
ankle because I
envelope
was
contain
moving the
some work that
folding
you did
chair
on a
and I was
particular
holding it
device?
wrong
Yes.
and it unfolded
When
and the
did you do
leg
the
hit
work
me
on
right
this
in the
particular
ankle. That's the
device?
only bruise I can
January
account
30th,
for.
2020.
The rest of them came from some
And-
unknown source.
How did you obtain whatever device we're going to talk about? Who gave it to you?
I was contacted by El Paso County Sheriff's Office Deputy Robert Soroy and asked to extract information from one cell phone.
Based on context at the time, was this a phone that was related to the investigation into Gannon Stauch's disappearance?
Yes.
Did Detective Soroy ask you to perform any particular type of functions as it relates to getting data off that device?
How do you mean?
Well, did he ask you, what did he ask you?
He just asked me to extract the information, not to examine any data from the device.
Okay. And what kind of device was it?
It was an Apple iPhone 8 Plus.
When a detective, either from your own agency or from a fellow agency in the community, asks you to do something like that, do they give you any information about where the phone came from?
It depends on the case, but in this case, I was not told where it had come from.
Okay. When you actually extract data from a phone, do you sometimes gather that information from the data that you extract from it?
Yes.
Was that true of this particular device?
No, I did not review the data.
Okay. So when you tell the jury what you did with this particular iPhone 8 Plus.
So the device was given to me by Deputy Soroy. It was a locked iPhone. Using our tools, I was able to circumvent the security and extract the information from the device. The data that was obtained was copied to a hard drive and then given to Deputy Soroy. The only information that I obtained just for documentation purposes was the phone number and the account associated with the phone.
And that's what I was referring to earlier, and I didn't ask a very good question. So is what's contained in People's Exhibit 716, is that the result of your extraction of that iPhone 8 Plus?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate representation as to that extraction process?
Yes.
At this time, I would move for admission of People's 716.
Mr. Cook? Exhibit 716 will be admitted.
Once you completed that extraction, do you turn that back over to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office? And then that was the total sum of your work on that device?
Yes.
What was the phone number associated with that device?
It was 843-957-3486.
And you mentioned you were able to get an email on that device as well. What was that email?
It was Harley_Hunt@yahoo.com.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
No questions, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Rogers? Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Exhibit, Judge. Go ahead. Question for the next question, please.
People would call it Soroy to stand.
All right. Mr. Roy, right hand.
I have a question.
You swear from the testimony about to give this man to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I just thought of something though, an answer to my,
Would you step
like
in
I'm
his-
talking over. And like I'm screaming and I don't want to be screaming in y'all's ears. Okay. So I was thinking about this right as I was formulating the question in my brain. At the completion of the formulation of the question in my brain then conjured up the answer. So there are the question I had is, are we ever going to see this forensic data, right? From the devices, from the phones, yada, 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 right? Oh my gosh, I can't even believe I said that. Ugh. Anyway, and as I was finishing the answer in my brain, ready to come out of my mouth again, I answered my own self. And I remember from other trials that there is certain evidence that the parties have agreed that they aren't going to object to, and there's no need to really get into it. They agree that the evidence is the evidence. We saw it during the Wagner trial. And so I'm thinking in an effort for brevity, maybe we're not going to see them. I'm not sure though. Oh no, Ez, that's awful. Bless your heart. I've had a similar scenario and story. One time I was at a bar in Waxahachie and it was pretty like empty. It was kind of an off night, and the bartender was letting us sample the different tequilas, and one of the tequilas was the tequila rose. And if y'all don't know what that tastes like, it tastes like strawberry quick. That's what it tasted like to me. And needless to say, it was more than a single shot sample. And I had to get up, and I sort of stumbled off that bar stool and recognized that there's all kinds of gravity in that bar. So yeah. All right, let's hear what
You have some information with regards to a vehicle that was rented by Letecia stauch from the Avis rental car at the airport.
Yeah, I was able to provide them some information on the car, which was a white.
And I'm wondering, Nonstop Mom, if by admitting it into evidence, it's there for presentation, because I can't understand who they're going to pick to actually display and talk about these Cellbrite dumps and you know the stuff that they pulled off of the phone. So I cannot. It's the only thing I can come up with. I don't know. We'll just have to stay tuned. This trial be leaving us with cliffhangers and questions.
Rental paperwork and then leaving to get the presumably car. Some of the airport footage from Colorado Springs police corroborated that, had the same information, and she was in the same area, the airport kind of thing.
And so prior to going, did you have information, what you stopped, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, I believe I had some pictures on my cell phone, driver and that kind of, I knew what I was, who I was looking
You know
for.
what I've learned, Nonstop Mom, is state to state the
Did you have
courts
a rental
vary and
agreement,
they do
or did you
things
get
just
that
a little
later?
differently. And I'm wondering
The
if,
manager there did give me a rental agreement with
hold
some
on
of
a
that.
second. I'm wondering if, like at the beginning of the trial, maybe something I just didn't missed it. Maybe maybe they're going to recall. I don't know. Never mind. Who knows? I don't know why they're not doing it. I guess, or how they're going to end up showing it. So we'll just have to wait.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what those efforts were?
Those efforts were assigned to other detectives. and not myself, but I was aware that the airport was one of the locations we might have been looking for that particular vehicle. And so there were some detectives searching the airport for the black Tiguan at that time.
Did anything?
Oh my
um,
goodness. Goodness.
unusual as you're at the Abe's rental car with regards to
We're
the
all-
keys to this particular Kia?
Well,
Yes,
people-
got a computer with the Avis, and we're looking at some of the videos.
they say that, you know, you naturally just gravitate to people that you have something in common with. And clearly in this chat, we are in need of the double bubble wrap. We're all clumsy.
And she saw what we were looking at on the computer screen and said, that's the same person that just handed me the keys. And she said, this lady handed me the keys, turned around, walked away, got in a white Jetta with another female, and they just drove off right away.
Now, prior to going out there, did you have any information that the Kia rental had been returned yet?
No, I did not believe it was returned yet, or didn't know yet.
Did you have any information whether or not the Kia was even at the airport at that point?
No, sir.
And so you go out there, just so I'm clear, you're going to talk to the manager about getting some surveillance video. One of the employees from Avis comes in and says, hey, that lady just dropped off the keys. And so what did you do after that?
At that point, I knew I had some Colorado Springs detectives in the airport searching for the Tiguan. And so I called that detective and I said, hey, the Kia just got returned, but the lot attendant told me it's not in the returns area. Can you help me search the airport for this white Kia as well? And a little while later, he called me back and said he found it in the short-term parking lot.
And is that different
it's
from the
doing
rental
all the
return
things.
parking lot?
Yes, sir. If I might explain that.
Go, sure, go ahead. Where is it located in relation to the rental car parking?
Yeah, at Colorado Springs Airport, everything's outdoor parking. So when you come in, there'll be signs for parking and rental car returns. So rental car returns takes you kind of to the front of the airport, and it's this area just for that. Short-term parking would take you through a gate that you have to get a ticket for, and then park in that area, and then long-term to another area to take a ticket.
Now, you, the person saw on the
Poor
surveillance
Amelia.
video,
Bless your
the
heart.
attendant
babe.
on the surveillance video and said, this is the person to hand me the keys. Letecia stauch. Is she in the courtroom today?
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir. She's on my right wearing a green long sleeve shirt.
And it's the same person you saw in the video?
Yes, sir.
May the record reflect identification of the defendant.
The record will so reflect. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you got word that the Kia rental car was found in short-term parking. What did you do next?
At that point, I spoke a little bit more with the manager at Avis to get permission to search that car, since I knew that's what I would be
You guys are
doing as my
funny.
next step in investigating the rental car now that we knew where it was. And so he put me in contact with, I guess, like a regional manager out of a different city who was able to provide me that consent to search the Kia via email. And so after I received that email, I went over there and took pictures, our normal process for searching a vehicle, opening up all the doors, taking pictures, documenting what you can see prior to actually going in there with, you know, gloves and stuff on and digging around looking for items or for different kinds of evidence.
And do you know whether or not that's Avis's routine practice is to have customers to drop their cars off in short-term parking?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
He just asked if he knew whether or
Sustained.
not. It's
I'm
a
just
yes or
asking,
a no
you know,
question.
Yep, but the knowledge is going to come from some hearsay source.
Okay.
Sustained.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, Your Honor, I agree.
So you said you went and you took photos of the Kia rental, and did you search it at that time?
Yes, sir.
Did you have to get permission to search it?
Yes, sir. And I received that via email from a regional Avis manager.
I hope
Okay.
all of you girls.
And
here
so
look
if I'm going to
fit.
approach the witness, Your Honor,
See, y'all
I'm going to hand you a
what
series of
Letecia's
exhibits.
doing over here now?
Thank you.
All right, so she rented a Kia, okay, and then rather than turn the Kia, return the rental like you're supposed to, she took that Kia to the airport
Understood.
and parked it in the short-term parking. I mean, they be keeping track
Okay, in front of you, I've given you
of
People's
rental
Exhibits
vehicles, ma'am.
234 through
What are you
238. Do you see those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In People's Exhibits 234 through 237, are those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And are those photographs of the Kia rental as you saw it at the airport in short-term parking?
Yes, sir.
And do they actually depict that vehicle as you saw it there and the items
just
that you
doing the
found
most,
inside that
Nadine.
vehicle as you saw it there on
The
January
absolute
31st, or
most.
excuse me, January 29th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibits 234 through 237.
Mr. Cook, exhibits 234 through 237 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Oh, I said just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh. Oh.
No objection.
All right. Exhibit 234 through 237 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Request to publish People's Exhibit 234.
You may go ahead.
I'm craving a plain cake donut from and one raspberry jelly.
Okay, so we see People's Exhibit 234 here. What do we see in this exhibit?
This is a photograph of the car in the foreground. The closest car in the picture is the white Kia Rio that we've been discussing. The cars behind it are.
Okay. Just on a side note, because I can only do my side notes during this stream, because then when Allie and I go live, we have to keep it, streamlined. But the way that Letecia continues to play with her hair and how she has it parted almost down the middle, what do y'all think the over under is that one of these days she's going to come to court wearing the Pippi Longstocking, pigtail braids? I'm thinking that we have about a 83% chance that that's going to be one of the hair du jours we see.
Yes, sir. In both those cases, there's a gate that stops you and you have to press a button to get a ticket.
And are you familiar with how long you could stay in there without having to pay to park, for instance?
Yeah, I believe it was less than an hour, maybe an hour. May not even have been that long. And I only ran into that because I had driven through there to get over to where I took these photographs and kind of ran into that issue over at the place where you would pay for your parking. So I could drive through again to get into the correct lot. But I don't recall the exact amount of time, but it was less than an hour. It wasn't a huge amount of time.
Okay. If we can now go to People's Exhibit 235. What do we see in People's Exhibit 235?
This is a picture between the driver's seat and the door down where there's a little bit of carpet kind of in that gap between the side of the seat and the door. And this is one of those parking tickets you get when you go park in short-term parking.
We can go to 236, please. What do we see in 236?
This is a picture of of the one side of that parking ticket.
And 237?
This is a picture of the back side of that same parking ticket.
And so does it have a date and time stamped on that?
Yes, sir. This one says January 28th of 2020 at 16:41 hours, so 4:41 p.m.
What does that tell you with regards to that time stamp?
That tells me that that's the time the ticket was obtained at the gate. So when you push the button and it spits the ticket out, that is stamped on there at that time, which I know because I had to go through the same process when I went to go take these pictures and do the search of that car.
And then in front of you, we have People's Exhibit 238, which would be one of the brown envelopes. See that?
Oh. Yes, sir.
What is People's Exhibit 238?
This is one of our evidence envelopes signed by me in the typical way that I sign it, at least on one side. And it's Sheriff's Office item number 14 with a description of parking ticket found in white Kia. So this would have been containing that ticket in the picture that I obtained from the search.
Would you need to open that to see if it in fact is the parking ticket in there?
I mean, yeah, somebody else has opened this since I originally sealed it.
Is that because there's two pieces of tape on there?
Yeah, so the way I would have originally sealed it is with this red tape at the top. I always do my name like this. I always do my initials like this. This piece of tape at the bottom is new since I
Came to
first
the
sealed
right
it.
place.
Why don't we go ahead and open it up? I think there may
Safe.
be some
It's
scissors.
safe here.
Okay.
We can sit, we can commiserate, and we don't have to worry about
And
tripping
you want
over
gloves,
air
there's
or
some gloves over there,
anything
too.
else.
I'm okay to open this, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have y'all ever noticed how long it always takes them to bust into these evidence envelopes and stuff? You know that I mean, look.
Go ahead. It looks like you
Must be
retrieved
sealed
something from that
right.
envelope. Do you recognize that item?
Yes, sir. This is the same parking ticket we've been discussing in these pictures.
And is it in general same condition as it was when you packaged it?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 238.
Mr. Cook,
No objection.
Exhibit 238 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Go ahead and repackage that if you don't mind.
Somebody else will have to tape it.
We'll leave it as is right now, okay?
Understood.
Did you also do some cell bright extractions from cell phones in this case?
I did, sir.
And what is a cell bright extraction?
And what will we be
A
seeing?
Celebrate extraction is a Celebrate is a tool we use to download data from electronic devices, primarily cell phones, but it's capable of retrieving data from other types of devices. And so when we say a Celebrate download, what we mean is downloading data from an electronic device using that Celebrate tool.
I don't care to see her face.
And what kind of
either.
experience and training do you have in using that cell bright tool?
I have a fair amount of training in digital forensics, including Celebrate specific training provided by the vendor for using their tool for the purpose of cell phone extractions.
And approximately how many times have you done cell bright extractions?
Guessing probably about 300 extractions during my time at the sheriff's office.
And can you just describe the process for the jury? What exactly do you do with a phone to extract the information off of it?
Yes, sir. In order to extract data from a cell phone, there's quite a few different factors. So it can depend on the phone.
Commentary.
Or off, the screw broken.
That's the stuff of nightmares. And what's,
those kinds.
I think, additionally
But in
heartbreaking.
general, what we
is
like to
that
do
that is the last
make
face
sure
that
that the
Gannon
cell phone
saw.
can't communicate with an outside.
Bless his heart, the
And so,
betrayal.
um,
She's so gross.
talking networks while it's sitting in our lab as evidence. And so there's a few ways to do that. We can put it in, or it can be turned off, or it can be, we can take the SIM card out so it can't talk to a cellular network, or it can be put in a special box that blocks radio signals. And I would have to refer to my report to understand the condition of a particular extraction that I did and what those circumstances were. But at that point, we can connect the phone to the Celebrate device. So
I
the
agree
tool
she
that
would do
actually does the
hold
data
on,
extraction.
turn him down.
And at that point, we also have some options.
We're familiar with how
depending
some
on
works,
make,
but
model, firmware
I do
version,
think that she's
security
saving
patch,
her energy. Right, she
Celebrate will be
is
able to
waiting for the
communicate with
perfect
that phone,
opportunity to put
in
her
a couple different ways. One way is you
BS
can read it as
dissociative identity. In my opinion, story,
basically it will establish a
you know,
communication link. So
on
that it'll
blast.
send
I
a
think
piece of
she's just
software to
biding
the
her
phone. It's
time.
very tiny,
But the
that
only
allows
reason
that
I'm hesitant
communication to
about the
take place.
vault
And the phone has
is
something
because she
built
is in
into
jail, and
most
I don't
phones
think that she would
called
be
an
allowed to
application
have
programming interface, or an
clippers,
API. And that's
meaning
just a fancy
she
way
would
of
have to
saying,
actually
that
request
phone has
to have her
made
hair
certain
cut,
kinds of
which then
communication
sort of,
available
I don't
that
know, we'll
Celebrate can
see.
utilize. So for example, Celebrate could say, hey phone, let me download your pictures. And the phone will say, okay, here's my pictures. You can have all of them, or you can have some of them, or you can have only these ones. And again, that depends on a lot of factors. And what that results in is what we call a logical extraction. So we're saying, can we have certain pieces of data? And the phone says, yes, here they are. The second type of extraction we can do is called a file system. So that would be like opening some kind of drive, like a CD or a hard drive or a USB drive, and seeing all those files and folders there and taking them all and downloading them. And again, that depends on certain factors with the actual stuff. And the third type of extraction is called a physical extraction. And that's where you have Celebrite is able to get access to the physical place where data is stored on the phone, whether that's like flash storage, or if, you know, it's phones don't really store data this way, but the old way would be like a spinning disk drive where there's actually like a metal magnetic disk with ones and zeros on it, and it can see all those ones and zeros and get every single bit, byte for byte, of data off the device, which is very rare for cell phones. But it is technically one method we can extract data, and that's called a physical extraction. At that point, Celebrate downloads data in whatever fashion it can, and then it brings it into one of our forensic computers in the lab, where we can look at it through probably Celebrate software, but it's not limited to just Celebrate software. There's other types of programs and tools we can use to look at that same data.
And when you extract the data off a cell phone, where do you put it? Where do you store it?
Mm-hmm. When we first download data off a cell phone, it's going to be in some files on one of our forensic workstations in our lab. From we cut onto probably a CD, like a Blu-ray, whatever we can that's big enough to fit it on, and we'll put it in an envelope just like these, and we'll drop it into evidence just like any other type of evidence.
In this particular case, did you have an opportunity to do an extraction, a Celebrite extraction, on an iPhone 8 belonging to an Al Stauch?
Yes, sir, I did. I believe that was from a waiver authority.
Okay. And in front of you is People's Exhibit 226. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And what is People's Exhibit 226?
This is one of our evidence envelopes, again, signed by me, which I can tell by my initials on it across the piece of tape. And the description is item number 585, which is the sheriff's office item number. And it says it's a CD containing a Celebrate report and photographs of Al S. I'm guessing that's going to say stauch, iPhone 8 or cell phone. But this will be the CD that I would have put in evidence containing that data from the Celebrate extraction.
And is that envelope still sealed with the original tape that you put on it?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's been sealed in any other way since I originally sealed it on March 4th of 2020.
Does that tell you then the data that is on that CD or Blu-ray disc is accurate, same as it was when you put it in the envelope?
Yes, sir.
We've moved to admit People's Exhibit 226.
Defense,
No objection.
Exhibit 226 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thanks.
Mr. Cook.
Are you working in Florida in law enforcement? Are you still a detective, or how shall I refer to you as?
You can refer to me as Robert. I left law enforcement last February.
Okay. All right. Well, Robert, so your part in this investigation of the disappearance of Gannon Stauch was what Mr. Young and you were talking about, but there were some other things you did as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You collected samples from this Kia vehicle from the airport that you located and was pictured in the photograph.
Yeah, I collected a few DNA samples during that search as well.
Okay. You took DNA swabs from the trunk of the Kia?
Yeah, I believe the area that I swabbed in the trunk would have been the threshold. So the part at the back bumper that's kind of a lip that goes, over into the trunk.
Okay. So you got DNA from the trunk area of the Kia. You got DNA from the steering wheel and the shifter of the Kia.
Yes, sir.
And you got DNA swabs from the internal driver door latch, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So that would have been the latch on the inside part of the door.
Okay. And did you submit those DNA swabs you collected from this Kia to a lab for testing?
I did not. I only placed them in El Paso County evidence.
Do you know if these swabs were eventually tested or forwarded by somebody else with law enforcement to have testing on them?
If they were, I'm not aware of it.
Is there a difference for doing a cell write download if you have the pass key or the passcode to the phone versus not having the passcode or the pass key to the phone?
Yes, sir. I mean, phones are designed to be secure and have varying types of security, and having a PIN code or a passcode is one type of security. So by inputting that PIN code, it will change the security state of the phone, and therefore, in most cases, the amount of data that's available to download from it.
Okay. So Mr. Stauch's phone, you had the passcode for that phone.
Yes, sir.
So you were able to access more information on his phone than you would be from a phone that you didn't have the passcode for, correct?
That's not necessarily true, but in most cases,
In most
is true.
cases.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Do any of the jurors have any questions? For Mr. Spade? All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all.
I'd like to object
Prosecution, call your
to
next witness, please.
the amount of time
Good
that
question.
elapses between from one question or from the answer from the witness and the next question asked. It's too long. They're about to go to lunch. Watch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take a little lunch break. So I can have in the jury room at say 1:30. We should be able to start on time at that point. And discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else.
Now, I am curious why they are taking a longer lunch today. And I suspect it has something to do with who the next witness may be, why they didn't call the next witness. What I am suspecting is that this is a witness that has more of a lengthy testimony, and rather than start the testimony and then interrupt it, they'd rather have a continuous flow, which is why they asked to go on lunch early. So, and because it's probably going to be a longer amount of testimony, maybe that's why he decided to extend the lunch break so they would be at, get a longer opportunity to move around and stuff like that. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here. And we will see who the next witness is going to be. And if it is Harley, if Allie doesn't end up streaming the second half of the trial, then I will, if it's Harley. Okay. Otherwise, I will meet you guys back here at 7 p.m. Eastern for Allie's and my trials recap of Letecia and Valo. So at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I will schedule that around 5 because YouTube seems to prefer like a 2-hour notice. Anything longer than that and it gets lost. So anyway, that's what the agenda is. I want to thank you guys for being here and putting up with the wonky audio that happens every so often. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm so glad that I got to spend the morning and a part of the afternoon with you guys and listening to this trial, and I will see you guys later. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Okie dokie. Bye.